She received a termination letter on the 15th of July, just 2 weeks after a televised interview where she stated that foreigners should not have access to public health care. While the station has not provided a reason for her termination, Zuma hinted her controversial activism, particularly through her anti-illegal immigration March and March movement, may have led to her dismissal. The campaign has faced criticism from political groups and civil groups, with reports suggesting Zuma FM came under pressure from sponsors and external entities. Zuma also expressed gratitude to her listeners and vowed to continue her activism despite the setback. Meanwhile, some social media users are calling for the boycott of the station, while others have just pledged their support for Jacinta. So this will be an interesting one to see how this goes.
Definitely. It will be debated for a long while. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with The Morning Brief in brief.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
18 minutes after 6. On the weather front, here's how it's looking. No warnings that have come through from the weather service, so straight to your weather. Pretoria will be fine at first, otherwise partly cloudy with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 18. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 7 to 18. Mbombela will be fine, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon, 9 to 22. Bulukwane, fine, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon, 6 to 19. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 19. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy, 9 to 19. Kimberley will be partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 7 to 20. Uppington, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 10 to 21. Cape Town will be cloudy with light rain in the morning, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 15. George will be fine at first, becoming cloudy with light rain from the afternoon, 8 to 15. Gqeberha, partly cloudy, becoming cloudy with scattered showers and rain in the afternoon, 11 to 18. East London will be partly cloudy early in the morning, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 15 to 19. Durban will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers in the evening with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 27. Richards Bay will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon, 15 to 26. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon with isolated showers and thunder showers in the evening with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 25.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
The Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has said he solemnly accepts what he's described as a harsh electoral result from Sunday's upper house election. He was speaking as exit polls and projections had his governing Liberal Democratic Party-led coalition headed for a significant blow at the polls, which may see them not being able to secure the required 50 seats to retain control of the upper house. While a loss of the upper house would compound the coalition's losses after it was trounced in the lower house polls in October last year, it won't necessarily lead to a collapse of Ishiba's government, and the Prime Minister has indicated his intention to stay on and lead key trade negotiations with the U.S. as an August the 1st tariff deadline looms. So let's speak to Professor David Munyai, who is the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good morning and thank you for your time once again. Locate this election for us in context. Isn't Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba new in his position? And how does this fit with the elections that were held in October last year?
Good morning. There are two houses. So the October elections was all about the lower house, the most powerful one. And in those elections, the ruling coalition did not do well. And therefore, at that level, they were just moving in a way that they have no full control of both houses. And these elections that took place yesterday they had a majority. They had an upper hand. They controlled 75% seats, and therefore, in these elections, within the upper house, they required only 50% to control that majority, which they failed. They only got 47. So what it means going forward, the Prime Minister is weakened in a way within his own party. And the trend in Japan is that it takes only 2 months when such a leader gets this kind of votes to step down. And one wonders if this leader will continue ruling, given the trend and the history of Japan. That part in particular, that eventually the leader will step down. If you lose, it's a trend globally. If you lose the party's upper political control of the politics of the country, and therefore you'll be pushed out. So it's more likely that in the next 2 months or so, he will certainly step down.
Sure. So he's said that he will remain firmly in position. And I suppose he needs to project that, doesn't he, with the looming August the 1st deadline for the U.S. tariffs to kick in unless a deal is struck between Japan and the United States.
Oh, indeed. And perhaps the party might also feel the same, that there might be a need for him to stay on. I think he has been doing quite well in negotiation and also giving Japan a much more stronger view. And we see the changes that are taking place, that the current Japanese leadership under his rule seem to stand up to the United States, which is an unusual thing, and say no in a number of demands that are made by President Donald Trump. But other factors that are affecting Japanese politics, which has to do with immigration issues, which are a global issue, but more so foreign nationals who are in the country. And the right-wing parties seem to go back to the historical Japanese isolationist kind of position, anti-foreign, and keep Japan pure Japanese.
In fact, Prof, I'd like you to say a bit more about that, because I think in our previous conversation, I said you associate the Japanese people with, being moderate, even in the way they conduct their politics and how they carry themselves. So when you hear that there's a far-right element that's emerging, but also not just that, also talk to, this sense that the governing coalition found itself out of step and out of kilter with the electorate on other issues as well, including issues on the economy.
Oh, indeed. On the economy, it's much more issue of inflation. The economy, as we had said in the past and even now, hasn't been doing well. For the last few decades, it's not really picking up. The question of aging, not catching up, not leading in technology, compounded by all what we know, the COVID, as well as these tariffs that is really destabilizing the economy. It's no longer that Japanese economy that we knew that was in the forefront, giving new technology, giving new products globally and dominating. And therefore, the current leader, I think he's being blamed, the coalition in particular, that they are not providing that leadership. And due to the COVID, I think to revive the economy, one of the major things that we spoke about last year was the need to ensure that you invite more people, tourism as sector. And they've done extremely well. I had the privilege of being in Japan this year. The number of people getting into Japan is massive. I think it's slightly cheaper than most destinations. However, it's not received well by a certain sector of society that tend to see some foreigners who stay, particularly those from Western world, who prefer to stay in Japan, and therefore that is not being received well.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights as always. Professor David Munyaye is the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies at the University of Johannesburg.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, Donald Trump had a thing. We're going to win so much. We're going to win so much. You're going to grow tired. You're going to grow tired of winning. Oh, I can't take it. That's exactly what's happening. We're just winning so much. We're growing tired of winning.
We need more trophy cabinets.
We can't take it anymore. Too much winning.
Imagine. Well, listen, we'll still celebrate these guys. They arrive home today, the Junior Springboks. They've ended a 13-year wait. They've won the 2025 Under-20 World Rugby Championship in Italy. They beat New Zealand 23-15, and what a way to looking forward to welcoming them later today. And it's a powerful sign of the exciting talent coming through the pipeline for South African rugby. Back home at Mbombela Stadium, the full Springbok squad, they had a dominant 55-10 win over Georgia in their final test before the Rugby Championship. And in cricket action, South Africa stormed into the Tri-Series T20 final with a 7-wicket win over Zimbabwe at the Harare Sports Club. Player of the match, Ruben Herman, smashed 63 of 36 balls. His maiden T20I half-century, while captain Rassie van der Dussen anchored the chase with an unbeaten 52 as the Proteas reached 145 for 3 with 16 balls to spare. The result eliminates Zimbabwe and sets up a final showdown against unbeaten New Zealand, and that's next Saturday. Now, Banyana, they had to dig deep to keep their hopes of defending the Women's Africa Cup of Nations alive in Morocco. They needed penalties to beat Senegal 4-1 in the quarterfinal that ended 0-0 after extra time at the Onia Stadium. Banyana will meet Nigeria. That's in the first semi-final tomorrow in a match that will decide whether they can go all the way to defend the trophy they won for the first time.
They're calling it the final before the final.
The final before we've beat them before. But anyway, moving on. We've also got news about Thabo Ndoda is nearing a return to top flight football after playing for newly promoted Durban City FC. And it was a match against Golden Arrows. The 30-year-old midfielder recently left Cape Town City FC after their relegation and is set to kick off a new chapter in KwaZulu-Natal. And finally, golf. Scotty Scheffler lifting the claret jug for the first time after winning the 153rd Open. He cruised to victory with a final round of 68 to top the leaderboard at 17 under. It's the first time the American has won the Open, and he adds it to 2 Masters victories and PGA Championship from earlier this year. He finished 4 shots ahead of compatriot Harris English at 13 under. Here's Scheffler.
It's a very special feeling. It takes a lot of work to get to this point in my career, and this was a tough week. It was challenging. The golf course was playing really tough, and I had to focus very hard over the course of the weekend. And really the only blemish over the last 36 holes was the double on 8, but did a good job of kind of resetting and coming back with a birdie on 9. And it's a very cool walk. It's a very special walk. To be honest with you, walking up 18, I didn't really know if I was going to get that much support from the crowd. The crowd, I think, wanted somebody else to win this week, and I kind of got to play spoiler a little bit, which is fun as well.
And that's your sport on the morning brief. We'll swing back with more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The headlines at 6:30. I am Dinamo Daun. Good morning. Aviation expert Guy Leach says the aviation industry has not fully recovered since COVID-19. This comes as more than 200 FlySafair pilots affiliated to Workers' Union Solidarity are set to embark on a 2-week strike from today. In other news, the bail hearing for the mother of 11-year-old Jaden Lee Meek is expected to continue in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court west of Johannesburg today. And a group of Cape Town youth taking part in a football tournament in Spain has been left stranded overseas. This after the football academy allegedly failed to pay for return flights and accommodation. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. the forecast for today is much more traffic than we've had for the last few weeks. Schools go back tomorrow, and yesterday we saw some enormous volumes coming back into particularly Gauteng, coming back from Polokwane. That traffic was relentless all day, about 1,000 vehicles per hour for many hours yesterday, coming out of Durban back in towards Joburg along the N3. So you can see that those big volumes yesterday, how they're transpiring into more traffic volume this morning, especially if you're on the M1 South. You'll be feeling exactly that. It is jammed across all lanes already from Brockfontein all the way down to a New Road. If you're not already in it, it's a bit late. The N3, Germiston through to Galuli is looking pretty heavy on that northbound track. Durban side today, we're starting to build on the N2 North, running up into Westwood Mall. The N3 out of Durban approaching Paradise Valley, the M13 split to Pinetown. That's looking a bit busy. And don't forget the problem these days, getting onto the N2 from Umhlanga, the new layout of lanes, just a single lane coming off the M41 onto the N2 South. It really backs up and it stays busy all day, in fact, through there. Cape Town this morning, crashes on the N1 inbound at Monte Vista. Another one back at Plattercliff Road. So there's a little bit of extra traffic coming in from Belleville this morning. Having a look, we're negotiating those scenes. And a broken down truck on Valhalla Drive at Owen, causing quite a big backlog coming off Robert Sobukwe, heading up Valhalla towards the Epping area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela for the first update of the morning and the first update of the week. Ndauling, let's start with a rates decision coming out of the People's Bank of China. It's a hold, isn't it?
That's right, Thulas, and happy Monday. Now, the People's Bank of China keeping its lending rates unchanged, and this despite ongoing economic challenges and weak consumer sentiment. The one-year loan prime rate remains at 3%, while the five-year rate stays at 3.5%. This move comes as a surprise for many economists, as they expected a stimulus boost, especially after the economic growth slowed to 5.2% in the second quarter from 5.4% in the first quarter. Analysts from Nomura expect China's economic fundamentals to worsen in the second half of the year, and this despite improved relations with the US. Those analysts saying slowing domestic demand and declining property sales are likely to weigh on growth. As a result, Nomura predicts that Beijing will likely introduce new supportive measures to boost the economy. The analysts forecast GDP growth to drop to 4% in the second half of the year, and that's down from about 5.1% in the first half.
And tell us about the London Stock Exchange. Why are they considering extending their trading hours?
They're considering extending their trading hours as a competitive measure because some of their international competitors are considering doing the same. They are potentially considering adopting a 24-hour trading model. Reports suggest that the company is engaged in discussions about the feasibility of this move, including upgrading its technology, addressing regulatory concerns, and assessing the impact on liquidity. Now, to implement extended trading hours, the London Stock Exchange Group would need to ensure its systems can handle increased capacity and volatility. Companies with dual listings could be impacted, adding another layer of complexity to the decision. Now, the potential move is part of the stock exchange's broader efforts to expand its product offerings. Despite challenges in attracting new listings, the company has reported strong financial performance driven by growth in its markets division. Now, the move towards extended trading hours is part of a larger industry trend, as mentioned. Execs at the NASDAQ in the US made a similar announcement in March this year and plans to introduce 24-hour trading next year.
Interesting. I wonder how long before we start having that conversation, in the JSE. Yeah, here at home. Lastly, Ndauling, recap for us how we closed on Friday and how what kind of a tone has been set by those markets that have opened.
The kicking things off in the US, stocks took a breather on Friday, closing in the red as profit-taking ensued. The Dow Jones shedding 0.32%. Traders, however, are optimistic about the stock market, saying upbeat earnings from corporate America will likely give markets a boost this week. Over on the JSE here at home, markets really positive. The All Share closed the week 1.37% higher, fueled by a 2% gain in both the Resources 10 complex and the Financial 15. The Rand also starting the week strong as the dollar remains under pressure. It's sitting at 17.72 to the greenback. Then lastly, in Asia, trade mixed this morning with investors digesting the latest move from China's central bank.
All right, Ndawling, thank you for that. We'll catch up with you in the second hour of the show. She'll be back just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, what an about turn. It's a 180-degree turn, isn't it? Former President Jacob Zuma and his MK party on the position of Morocco and Western Sahara.
Refreshing morning to Latin Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Tula, picking up from where Melissa left, it is important that the meeting of the former president was with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Morocco, Nasser Bourrit. That meeting happened last week, Tula. It was not on the tables. We just picked it up over the weekend, and the issue of the diplomatic row in terms of the using of the flag. Because he was not there as a former head of state. He was there as a member of the political party. But remember where it has all started, Tulas. Zuma visited Morocco in 2017 during the AU summit. He met actually with the king of Morocco in the AU summit in Ivory Coast. That's where they started to engage. But for him to also say that Morocco, yes, assisted the ANC during the liberation struggle, and he was correct. Nelson Mandela, former head of state, Tulas, received military training in the military camp of Algerian Liberation Front in Morocco. That is correct. But what is strange, Tulas, is the diplomatic route that he has caused, that even in terms of protocol, they are raising these issues that it might lessen our stance on the question of Morocco and Western Sahara. And like you have said, one asked, when he was a former head of state, why did he now have to change now in his stance against Morocco, saying that Morocco has a territorial integrity, when we know that the question of Western Sahara has been on the lips of many African leaders, even at the AU level, even at the ANC. So this is a surprise. But remember, they were launching their plan where they're talking about emancipation. They were talking about territorial integrity. And if you recall, we even spoke about it last month when I said I read their foreign policy document on their stance on Morocco and Western Sahara. And that's why our listeners must just visit their website and look at that 17-page document, which when I look, there are many errors on it, Tulas, when we have to look at the current stance.
Yeah. No, it's quite an interesting one, Sipho, because there's hardly an ANC January 8th statement or even manifesto or any document of significance where you will not find a clearly stated position in support of, the autonomy and independence of Western Sahara against these claims by Morocco. For a leader who's been at the forefront of that for so long, to suddenly say the opposite is quite interesting to observe. So talk to me about these hopes for peace in the DRC. This time it's a ceasefire framework between the DRC itself and the M23.
That's quite true, Tulas. Remember, we're still talking about the Washington peace deal. Now we are in a Qatar, Doha, what we call declaration of principles. And as you put it correctly, Tulas, it's a ceasefire framework between M23 and the government of the DRC. We're expecting next month, Tulas, to see the final draft of the peace agreement between the government of DRC and M23. The issues that are key in that declaration, Tulas, others are saying it's maybe a cut and paste of the Washington peace deal, but the issues that came out, Tulas, was the issue of looking at how to deal with the concept of comprehensive peace, how to deal with the deep-rooted causes of the conflict, but also what is important is the phasing out of the M23 from Goma and Bukavu, Tulas, but also the issue of humanitarian crisis, that we have many people who have left the the eastern part of Congo, and at the same time you have a humanitarian crisis. How will they deal with it? So the final peace talks are said to be done by the first week of August, probably by the second week of August, we might have the peace deal signed from Qatar. Still a shocking move, Thulas, when the AU saying that they do acknowledge that peace process in Qatar. We are ashamed, Thulas, to say we should have led that peace process.
Yeah. One time was the phrase you and I were introduced to last month during the protests in Kenya. After the protest comes the consequences. There's now this, arrest of this Kenyan activist. Tell me about it.
Thulas, this is a human rights activist that has been on the news also, Boniface Mwangi, who's been accused by the government of Kenya yesterday, saying that he has facilitated terrorist acts which rocked Kenya on the 25th of June last month with the calling of President William Ruto, the hustler, to resign from office. 19 people have lost their lives to us. Now they are charging Boniface as the human rights lawyer. Remember, the man is a human rights lawyer to us. Has been kept in custody now over the weekend for him saying that he has been involved in the protest by young people of Kenya. Now we'll follow up on this case because it's an important case of Boniface Mwangi, who since from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, they've been called for his release. There have been many issues around him, but the government of Kenya has arrested him over the weekend.
And then lastly, Sipho, your historical archive, I fully understand why you did it this way, right? When I saw what anniversary it was yesterday, a part of me felt like, I wish this had happened on a Monday. I'm glad you did what you did. Go ahead, tell us about what happened on the 20th of July, 1925, as well as the 21st of July, 1921.
Julius, I thought it is important for our listeners to always reflect about Frantz Omar Fanon. That yesterday Frantz Fanon will have been 100 years. He died at a young age of 36, Thulas. He was not an academic, he was a thinker, he was an intellectual. He was part of the Algerian liberation movement. And when you look at Fanon, you have many books that people are very important to read. It's only one book I'll give the listeners, and I think this is a Bible of many activists in Africa that was published before his passing in 1961. The Rest of the Earth, Thulas. This is one of an important book that we should know. The first book, Black Skin, White Mask, it was his thesis that was never allowed in university. He drew his knowledge from poetry, psychology, philosophy, and political theory. A very important thinker, Thulas, of the 20th century, Frantz Omar Fanon. Today, in our historical archive, Thulas, it's almost 5 years since his passing, actually, when the COVID-19 started in March 2020. But on this day, we remember his birth, Vusamazulu, Mpumelelo, Credo Muta, who was born on this day, Thulas. He will have been 104 years old. And this is the Sanusi that prophesied, Thulas, gave prophecy on many South African presidents that they will not stay long into office. He prophesied about the 9/11, but also for our listeners, Indaba, My Children, the seminal book of Ubaba Credo Vusamazulu Muta, who was born in Msinga in KwaZulu Natal province. Transverse Soweto, there's a Credo Muta village, Mafikeng, the Tamorin Dam, that's where Credo Muta village was. So as we think of these two philosophers, two thinkers, Frantz Fanon and Credo Muta, I think Africa Update is enriched with the knowledge of this great thinkers. Asante sana Thulas, as was leading the conversation, SFM observing the International Mandela Month, as well as Frantz Fanon Day and Credo Vusamazulu Muta.
Thank you for that, Sipho. That's Sipho Mantula with your Africa Update on this Monday.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Let's give credit to the initial reporting of the Sowetan on this story. A bridge project in Diepsloot in Johannesburg, launched after the tragic drowning of a schoolgirl in 2016, has become a costly symbol of government failure. Despite nearly 70 million rand spent over 4 years, the JB Marks Bridge remains unfinished, with the city of Johannesburg now asking for an additional 12 million rand to complete a project originally scheduled to take just 5 months to complete. So, yeah. It was meant to take 5 months. It's still on the go, far from completion. Let's speak to Loyiso Toyiya, who is the chairperson of the Diepsloot Community Forum. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Because, my mind works that way, I had to put the pictures of what it looks like today in front of me. And it looks nothing like a project that has had 70 million rand spent on it already in phase 1 and phase 2. Tell me about what you understand to be the hold-up for the completion of the JB Marks Bridge.
Morning, to us and you all. We are told when we ask as community leaders that the hold-up first in 2021, it was because the contractor could not complete the project because of they did not have the capacity to complete the project. Mm-hmm. And they ran away. And we raised questions even then that how then can you appoint such contractors who cannot complete projects? Indeed, a second contractor now, which was last year, was appointed. And the same thing is happening now. They can't pay employees, they can't pay SMMEs, they can't even complete. It's the same story that was happening in 2021. Even now, contractors were appointed by JDA who don't have capacity to complete this project. That's what we're hearing from when we inquire. The question is, indeed, how do you appoint such contractors? Because when you appoint a contractor, they must give an assurance or a certain amount of money that indeed will complete the project on time. It is not with that case with JDA. It seems like they're appointing incompetent contractors, their friends and families. That is what we see as community leaders.
So say it in your own words and describe what the bridge has become. Not just an eyesore, as I say, I'm looking at the pictures right in front of me, but I believe that it has brought a great deal of inconvenience and even issues of safety in the community.
It's a nightmare, my brother. It's a nightmare. It used to be an easy access for children from Extension 4 who are going to Extension 6 at school, and others who are going from Extension 6 who are going to Extension 7 schools. Now it is a nightmare. It has become a place where even criminals now can hide because it is barricaded. You can't even go to the other side using that bridge anymore. Kids must use different routes. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. It has become now a dangerous, hazardous place that we don't even understand how they really. I don't even know how to explain it to you, but I can tell you it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And I saw that there's a significant buildup of water on the sides. Does that pose a hazard?
Indeed. The place that was a bridge, at least by that time, because this bridge was supposed to be an upgrade, because when there's a lot of rain and floods, the bridge will have a lot of floods on top because it was very small. It was just an upgrade to lift it up and make it look nice. There was a bridge. There was something that was there. Now there's nothing. It's just they created now a sort of a river. There was a bridge before. It's a mess. It's a mess because when the summer is coming now, that place is going to be a river. It's going to be a mess, Jay. It's a mess.
Lastly, the undertaking now from the Joburg Development Agency is that this bridge, the work will be completed by September this year. Do you believe them?
Come in September, my brother, and see it for yourself. if indeed they are telling the truth. And these are the questions that we are asking ourselves, as we have said. What kind of contractors, these people that they are spending using our taxpayers' money, that the first contractor that they spend almost 37 million. If you can go there, you can see that there's no 37 million that was spent. The second contractor now that was appointed, supposedly they were supposed to spend 13 million on them. They need additional amount of money. You can go there even now. You don't see a 30 million that is being spent. Seriously, you can see that JDA now has become an entity for corrupt politicians and officials to loot the state money. And you ask yourself the first question, what happened to that first contractor who did not complete this bridge? Was he held accountable? Is he blacklisted, or is continuing doing the work? I can tell you none of those things have happened.
Right.
Come September and see it for yourself if they will finish that bridge. I can tell you now that is not true. It's almost August now.
Yeah.
September is around the corner.
Right. Let's leave it there for this morning, Loyiso, and thank you for your time and your insights from someone who lives and works in the community. That's Loyiso Toyiya, who is chairperson of the Deep Slot Community Forum. Do yourself a favor. Look up that story. I think the headline from the Sowetan is 67 million rand for this. And then look at the pictures and tell me if you see evidence of 67 million rand having been spent in that project. And then let's talk.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. It is generally busy across the country. Some areas waiting until tomorrow for the kids to go back to school, but generally more volume in the mix today. And we can feel that on the Mike 1 going north. There is a crash scene by 11th Avenue in the Houghton area. So very heavy, starting to queue back from Gold Reef City all the way through the Parktown area and up towards 11th Avenue. Behind that, the M2 starting to push back as far as Joe Slovo Drive. N3, Germiston through to Montefontaine Road is pretty heavy. And the N1 fully loaded. No gaps this morning between Bruckfontein and New Road. That is a solid run if you're coming out of Pretoria. Also coming in from Montana's side, there's a crash on the M1 South between Sefaka Makato and Stormful Road. So the highway is badly backed up, and the Sefaka Makato option trying to get in to that N1 very heavy, leaving Montana as well. Durban, first of today's breakdowns on the N2 North before Umhlanga, so that's slow from Kwamashu. Breakdown at Paradise Valley, the N3 going out of Durban, queuing after the Pavilion Mall. Ashburton, Pietermaritzburg section at this stage looks all right. Cape Town, interesting. You can see bigger volumes. The route that is one that will probably start to queue from tomorrow, I guess, is the M3. That's still a pretty good run from Constantia up to Newlands. We won't be saying that this time tomorrow, that's for sure. Crash on the M1 inbound at the ramp to Monte Vista, slowing things up, and a stationary truck on Valhalla Drive northbound at Owen Road, causing quite a big backlog. If you're turning off Robert Sobukwe and heading north up Valhalla towards Epping, it's really slow going. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses, do it for the things that matter.
For news on South African industry and mining, Creamer Media's Engineering News and Mining Weekly has you covered. Click through to Creamer Media's Engineering News each day for the latest on the people and companies shaping the energy transition and South African industry. Keep your finger on the critical minerals pulse by visiting Creamer Media's Mining Weekly. For deeper insight, subscribe to the Engineering News and Mining Weekly magazine, out on Fridays. Creamer Media, current, credible, comprehensive.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
4 minutes to 7. In a development that arguably highlights the depths of the country's unemployment crisis, the South African Police Service has been inundated with over 1 million applications for its recently advertised 5,500 slots for its basic training and recruitment intake. That's a record-breaking response that reflects both a deep desire among the nation's youth to serve their communities and the intense demand for employment opportunities in the country. Let's unpack it all. I'm joined by Brigadier Athlenda Mate, who is the national spokesperson of the SAPS. Good morning to you, Brigadier, and thank you for your time. I do imagine that you did not anticipate such an overwhelming response to 5,500 positions that are available.
Thulas, there's nothing shocking there for us. These are the usual numbers that we get, that we receive every year. Last year we had slightly higher at 1.2 million, and the previous year it was about 600,000. So these are the usual numbers, nothing new for us. We see it as an opportunity to get a larger pool of applicants. This year our recruitment is very targeted. We are targeting graduates with law and policing, criminology, BSc-related qualifications. And if I can just mention that in terms of graduates, we have received more than 334,000 graduates that have applied. And we're also focusing on graduates with driving licenses, because obviously, I mean, the first thing that you need to do when you get to a police station is to get into a police van. And those that are in possession of driving licenses are 260,000.
But it does mean, though, Brigadier, that with over 330,000 applicants being holders of tertiary level qualifications, that would disqualify a large pool then of the people that have applied. Was this clarified right from the get-go?
Well, absolutely. We only have 5,500 posts, unfortunately, due to budget constraints. But in the last 3 years, we have trained about 30,393 police officers. So each year, government made it possible for us to train 10,000 police officers this year. So due to budget constraints, we had to then reduce the number. But the hard work begins now, where we now have to really start with the targeted recruitment to select the best candidates, those that are passionate in policing, those that are upright, honest, that will really uphold the Constitution and the laws of this country. So they will be going through rigorous processes, psychometric assessments, integrity. They will then go through fitness assessments, medical assessments, and so on, to ensure that we get the best candidates.
And what's the reason why you are targeting graduates who hold degrees in the areas that you mentioned?
Well, absolutely. It's no secret that we are in need of detectives. We are in need of IT experts. For example, we are in need of BSc graduates for our DNA labs, where we have to obviously fast track, DNA processing, the evidence collected at the crime scenes, the DNA or if I can say BSc graduates, they have the qualifications that we need, because they play a very important role in our labs, where they link perpetrators to a crime scene.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Brigadier Athlenda Mate, who is the National Police spokesperson. Let's go straight to Dineo Motaung with the news at 7.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
Thanks, Thulas. Top stories: 5 killed in family tragedy on R66 in KZN, and Seoul signals uncertainty in U.S. tariff negotiations. A very good morning. 5 family members have been killed and 7 others seriously injured in a collision involving a buggy and a light motor vehicle on the R66 near Dokotweni Bridge in Gingindlovu, north of KwaZulu-Natal. Amongst the deceased is a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old baby. Advanced life support paramedics say among those who sustained injuries were 3 adults and 4 children, all under the age of 14. Spokesperson Samantha Myrick elaborates.
The collision has sadly left 5 family members deceased. A further 7 people sustained injuries. Patients have been stabilized on scene by IPSS Medical Rescue Advanced Life Support paramedics and have been transported to various facilities for further care.
Aviation expert Guy Leach says the aviation industry has not fully recovered since COVID-19. He says FlySafair is a low-cost carrier and always attempts to keep its costs down as far as possible. This comes as more than 200 FlySafair pilots affiliated to Workers' Union Solidarity are set to embark on a 2-week strike from today. Solidarity says they've given the employer a notice to strike following a deadlock in wage negotiations. The union has rejected the airline's proposed 5.7% salary increase. Leach says FlySafair is faced with a lot of challenges and that might take time to resolve.
But I think that what's aggravating the situation right now is certainly these claims by Solidarity that the 2 senior executives, the CEO and the CFO of the airline, are pocketing as much as 90 million rand in terms of shares that they're selling. And it's obviously very worrying that they're selling shares. It's never a good sign when senior management starts selling off shares. But then the airline's got its other problems, as we know. It's got this whole problem of its foreign ownership limitations, which it fell foul of the Air Services Licensing Council at the end of last year. That one has still not properly been solved or landed, if you like.
In other news, the bail hearing for the mother of 11-year-old Jaden Lee Meek is expected to continue in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court west of Johannesburg today. Tiffany Meek has been charged with the murder of her son and defeating the ends of justice. On Friday, she told the court through her lawyer that she intended to plead not guilty to all charges. The accused claims that she has been framed. The state has revealed that she used an object to fatally hit the boy on the head. The deceased uncle, Owen Meek.
We'll hear the verdict, what the bail hearing is all about, if she'll get bail or not. But during this time, we just ask, for a bit of respect to the families now. A lot of what was put in the bail statement is something that we don't agree with. We stand firm on what our beliefs are. And, I would like to ask everybody just to stick with us, give us the support, the continuous support that we've been receiving from everybody. We are very humbled, we are very blessed.
Staying in Gauteng, the DA in the province is demanding the health MEC Nomantu Nkomo Ralehogu accounts for the appointment of 8 ANC Youth League leaders to the boards of the province's hospitals. The 8 will serve on the boards of 34 Gauteng hospitals for a 3-year term and will receive a 10,000 rand each for every meeting they attend. The Gauteng member of the legislature, Jack Bloom, says this is outrageous.
The DA is demanding that the Gauteng Health MEC account for the appointment of various ANC figures to hospital boards. Our Gauteng public hospitals need real professional people, not ANC cronies, and we want to know how this happened and why they're getting these lucrative positions when there are other far more worthy people to help run our hospitals properly.
A group of Cape Town youth taking part in a football tournament in Spain has been left stranded overseas. This after the football academy allegedly failed to pay for return flights and accommodation. The group left Cape Town on the 6th of July and were due to have arrived back on Wednesday. 18-year-old player Juan Jumat is among a group of over 20 stranded. His mother, Crisalda Williams, says the group is currently in Lisbon, Portugal after fundraising. She says parents are now at their wits' end and are running out of funds.
I actually get emotional when I talk about it. I just want my child back home. He sent me a message yesterday with the emoji crying, saying you want to come home. That just broke me. That just totally broke me. So yeah, I just want my child back home.
Lastly, further afield, South Korea's new industry minister Kim Jong-kwon says tariff talks with the U.S. are in a critical phase that could result in all kinds of possible scenarios. The U.S. introduced a 25% tariff on South Korean exports, a dramatic move that has left many businesses scrambling. The U.S. said the tariffs will take effect next month. Kim pledged an all-out effort to smoothly wrap up the talks as the set date approaches. Recapping the top story at 5 family members have been killed and 7 others seriously injured in a collision involving a buggy and a light motor vehicle on the R66 near the Dokudweni Bridge in Gingindlovu, north of KwaZulu-Natal. Headlines at 7:30 for SAFM News. I am Dino Mutaung.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible! What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Junior Springboks, they land at Ora Tambo this morning. World champions with the trophy in hand. And in cricket, the Proteas reached the Tri-Series final with a 7-wicket victory over Zimbabwe. We'll have details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A reminder, it's a busy Monday. School's back tomorrow. Volumes back pretty much today. Don't leave it too long to get out and about in it. The N1 South out of Montana, side of Pretoria, heavy. Crash before you get to Storenville Road. The N1 South is bad. And Sefaka Makato trying to get in, leaving Montana is heavy as well. Plenty of jams on the N1 from Brockfontein all the way down to New Road. Fully loaded and slow go this Monday. And the Mike 1 North, a crash at 11th Avenue up in Houghton Estate. That's a joined up queue right back to Gold Reef City. Durban, the M41 remains slow climbing onto the N2 South, a new road and lane configuration there causing problems. The N2 North up to Gateways heavy with a broken down vehicle before you get to the Mslanga exit, and a stationary vehicle on the N3 out of Durban at Paradise Valley, slowing traffic from Pavilion Mall on your way to Point Town. Cape Town N7 Jake Scoville Drive northbound queuing up passing the Langa area on your way slowly towards Epping. Valhalla Drive is heavy passing Matroosfontein. That's a broken down truck at Owen Road causing delays there. And Marine Drive, wow, from Bayside Mall, pretty heavily backed all the way to the first lights at Sunset Beach. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Monday. Good morning and welcome to it, the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM on 104 to 107 nationwide. Here's what's coming up in this hour. We'll touch on the mass shooting that occurred on Friday at the Choba Informal Settlement in Olivenhout Bosch in Tshwane that left 5 people dead. It occurred at a tavern, and we'll touch base with Lakinti Mane, who is the convener of the National Liquor Traders Council, and that's coming up in the next few minutes. Do share your experiences with us if you are meant to be on a Fly Surf Air flight and you are traveling and transiting across various airports across the country, because there is a strike that has started this morning by pilots who are affiliated with the union Solidarity. Fly Surf Air, for its part, saying that, operations continue largely as scheduled today, talking about a quantity of about 8% of flights that they are saying have had to be cancelled today. So in the next few minutes, I'll be talking to Kirby Gordon, who is the spokesperson of Fly Surf Air, and we'll be talking about where the differences lie, because it's allegation and counter-allegation. Among the allegations that have come through, for instance, from Solidarity, is that the CCMA, the Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, had offered to intervene and try and end the strike at this early stage and help the two parties find common ground. But according to Solidarity, FlySafair has rejected that overture from the CCMA, meaning that the strike will continue. It is put down for 2 weeks. It was meant to be a one-day strike, but between the parties, there were differences that actually led to an escalation of what was meant to be a one-day strike, now being a 2-week strike. So Kirby Gordon is my guest at about 7:20. A bit later on, we'll give you an update on the situation around Mpox. This as the Department of Health is concerned over a gradual increase in confirmed Mpox cases, with 2 new infections reported in Gauteng and the Western Cape. I'll be speaking to Dr. Leslie Bamford at about 10 to 8 this morning. But of course, you are a crucial part of this conversation. In fact, there is no conversation without you, right? So do give me a call. I look forward to hearing from you. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. Please do send me those WhatsApp voice notes. I'll play them and engage with your views. That number is 061 410 4107. So let's get the second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
I've been battling to get nice car insurance. Outsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might say get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
My name is Fikile Makama. I'm from Cape Town and I'm a defender. Between city life and village life, I will choose village life. I like being around people. I would like to say to my friends back home, they know where I come from. They've seen my struggles. So me being here is me representing them and my family. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connect.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on 13 July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2, tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, let's start with the story, which is, of course, a sign of just how abnormal our crime situation continues to be. Gauteng police have launched a manhunt after a tragic mass shooting at a tavern at the Choba informal settlement in Olivenwood Bosch in Tshwane that happened on Friday evening. 5 people, 2 women and 3 men, were killed in the shooting incident. Initial reports had suggested 6 fatalities, but police later confirmed the revised total. Several others were also injured during the attack. The incident has left the community in shock, as you can imagine, as law enforcement intensifies efforts to track down those responsible. Let's speak to Lucky Ntimane. He's the convener of the National Liquor Traders Council. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. This incident occurred at a tavern in the area of Choba Informal Settlement in Olivenhout Bosch. Just your overall reaction as an organization to this incident and just how tragic and fatal it turned out to be.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to SAFM listeners. We just need to clarify, firstly, that this did not happen at a tavern, but it happened at an illegal establishment, which is a shebeen, which is not part of the constituency that we represent. However, we do bemoan the loss of life in that environment, but also it highlights, the tragic circumstances under which we as liquor traders, we as licensed establishment operate under. We have seen in the past few months shootings that have resulted in loss of life in our own establishments, legal environments. So this is something that concerns us, that it seems that the behavior in a township environment does spill over into our space, which is the liquor trading environment. And we actually call on law enforcement officials to actually play their part even more to ensure that we close these illegal establishments, similar to the one that we saw in the Centurion over the weekend, because these are breeding grounds for criminality. Not only are we seeing loss of lives in that space, but also we are seeing that other criminal elements actually seem to roam around in those environments. So shebeens should actually not be able to operate in South Africa. Those are illegal. However, I need to emphasize that in Gauteng, for example, there is a special dispensation where those that have special permits to operate as shebeens are allowed to trade. But as far as we understand it, this incident happened at an environment which was not licensed, and to even make it worse, even the electricity, we believe, was illegally connected in that environment.
Is it your sense that the criminality is more pronounced in establishments that are not licensed, so not taverns that are properly established and hold a liquor license, but shebeens that in many instances have no licensing regime? Is it your sense that they're more prone to criminal incidents of this nature?
Yes, indeed, because if you look at the shebeen and how it operates, it means it is illegal to start with. So there is nothing legal that is going to take place in that environment insofar as, being aligned to license regulations. So those people are not going to follow, the closing and opening times as it pertains to the regulations of trading in liquor. So they're going to play a noise that, is a disturbance to the neighbors. They're not going to oblige to any regulation whatsoever. So meaning that those form breeding ground for criminality and other elements that we do not want in our communities, as we fully understand that taverns operate at the pleasure of our communities, but shebeens do not.
But is your assertion backed by the numbers, though, Mr. Ntimane, in terms of the crimes that occur at liquor establishments, whether they are licensed or not licensed? The SAPS reports on these quarterly when they release their crime statistics. The reality is that crimes do occur even in licensed establishments, and a lot of the murders actually occur even in licensed establishments. So it seems to me to be a distinction that is superficial.
No, you are quite correct, Thulasizwe. But if you look at the township environment and the crimes that are happening, all we are seeing is that they spill over. We are seeing it in social spaces, and in this instance, a tavern and a shebeen will form part of the social fabric of our communities. So the crimes will indeed happen in those two. So you are quite right that the numbers do not back the assertion that this might be happening in illegal outlets. But if you look at the statistics, for example, we have 5 shebeens for 1 tavern. So meaning that these illegal establishments are continuing to flourish in our country. So if there is any crime that will take place in communities insofar as social spaces are concerned, it is definitely going to happen in either a tavern and a shebeen. But if the statistics are anything to go by, it means this is going to happen in a shebeen environment.
Lastly then, what should be the response from a policing and law enforcement perspective? Because increasingly we are seeing incidents of this nature occurring at liquor establishments.
I think we need to make a clear distinction that the liquor establishment that we're referring to is a shebeen. which will not be operational to start with. So we are saying that the police should actually close down all the shabis that are operational across the country, wherever they are, without any mercy, because this seems to be, the breeding ground of what now we are seeing as massacre at the shabin in Centurion. So if police do their job and close the shabins, then we'll have less problem to worry about.
All right. Gora, thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Lakinti Mane, convener of the National Liquor Traders Council.
My name is Fikile Makama. I'm from Cape Town and I'm a defender. Between city life and village life, I will choose village life. I like being around people. I would like to say to my friends back home, they know where I come from. They've seen my struggles. So me being here is me representing them and my family. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connect.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. Chasing the Sun is a 5-part South African sport documentary series. An inspiring story of the 4-time World Rugby champions, the Springboks. The journey of winning the Rugby World Cup, a behind-the-scenes look of how the green and gold team overcame adversity, divisions, and doubt to become world champs. Be there when history shines. Tune into SABC2 on Sundays at 7:30 p.m. from 13 July to 10 August. Also available anytime, anywhere on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Let's turn to this now. The full impact of on flight operations will become clearer today as a 2-week strike by nearly 90% of FlySafair pilots gets underway. The pilots affiliated with the Solidarity Union are boycotting their cockpits over a wage dispute, which has seen most of Solidarity's members reject FlySafair's 5.7% wage increase. The union had initially planned to stage a 1-day strike but extended it to 2 weeks after SAFAir announced a week-long lockout. I know that SAFAir is quibbling with that assertion, but the union rejected that lockout as a drastic response, leading to the escalation. So let's go through some of the issues with Kirby Gordon, who speaks on behalf of FlySafair. Good morning to you, Kirby. We'll get into the disputes of fact around what led to the escalation in a moment. But I think a starting point is you sharing with us what your experience is of the strike's impact on flight operations this morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Yes, absolutely. It's with deep regret that we've had to cancel some flights today. Although we had commitments from pilots to operate these flights, several of them withdrew those commitments late last night, which has unfortunately necessitated the cancellation of a number of flights. And of course, we sincerely apologize to those affected customers. We've sent messages to all of those using the details that we were provided at the time of booking to advise them of the changes. And our teams are, of course, on standby to assist any passengers that need assistance at the airports, and of course to expedite any refunds so that people can make alternative travel arrangements.
What's the percentage of flights that have been cancelled versus, your normal day-to-day flights, because you have become the largest airline in the country?
Absolutely. We're looking at about 12% of today's flights. So the vast majority of flights are still going to be operated on time as per schedule, but there are about 12%. All details of those flights are available in the travel updates page on our website at flysafair.co.za.
So that 12% is significant, but how is it that it's only 12% when we are told that 90% of Solidarity member pilots actually voted in favor of the strike? How do you reconcile the two?
Yeah, unfortunately, the union has been misrepresenting the numbers, obviously, to try and pursue a sensationalist view. So when Solidarity reports that 9 out of 10 pilots are striking, that's actually inaccurate. The reality is that only 2/3 of the pilot base are actually represented by the union. So there is still a large base of pilots who are non-unionized and are actually flying today. And equally, of those that are unionized, there is a significant portion who are not choosing to participate in the strike action. that Solidarity is pursuing. So we actually have a fairly full remit of pilots that are still available to fly. And of course, it stands to reason that not every pilot flies absolutely every day. So it's not as though if you're sitting with a situation where, for argument's sake, you have 40% of your pilots on strike, that you have to cut out 40% of your flights either.
So in terms of the inconvenience that it's all causing, I hear that you're communicating with people and getting ready to facilitate refunds and the likes. But I do imagine that you will have a fair number of passengers who will find themselves really stranded and not able to get on another flight. And, having this whole inconvenience bearing down on them. Are there other arrangements you are making, for instance, hotel accommodation where it might be needed, where it's simply inevitable that the passenger will need your assistance?
Yeah, look, unfortunately, the impasse that we're at, which is a result of these really unrealistic demands from Solidarity, which we can get into in a second, has left us in a very, very sort of tragic situation. I mean, the reality is that there are a number of people who are stranded, like you identify. There are individuals who are trying to get to be by the sides of loved ones who are passing away. There are those that are trying to go for job interviews. There are people that are just trying to go away on well-earned breaks, and they are now waking up to face these kinds of situations that they're at the front of this morning. Equally, there are 2,000 people who work actively to maintain a fantastic reputation for an excellent airline who are now having that reputation tarnished. And at the same time, there's a pilot sitting at home right now not earning 60,000 Rand this week, which he is doing actively to try and pursue his own goals. So the reality is no one wins in this scenario at all. And it really is important that all parties maintain the negotiations in an honest and meaningful and constructive manner. Which is what we're hoping to achieve with Solidarity.
So let's get to the heart of the dispute then. Solidarity rejecting, I understand your offer to be 5.7% wage increase. And part of the argument is that actually in terms of what the executives at FlySAF Air get by way of, various incentives, leads to that discrepancy that the people who are at the forefront of the operations, the pilots, don't earn as much as they should in comparison to what executives take home?
I think that's a completely disingenuous argument. Allow me to finish you with a couple of the facts. The reality is that Solidarity are pushing for what they call a 10% increase. It's not a 10% increase, that's just a 10% increase in base pay. When one looks at the additional demands for flight bonuses and other bonuses that the union is pushing for, they're actually looking for a 20.1% increase. Now, for a starting point, FlySAF Air pilots are very competitively remunerated within the aviation space, both locally and internationally. There are, of course, some international elements where you might be able to earn more money operating in foreign currencies, etc., but locally, our pilots earn more than most others. A captain earns between 1.8 and 2.3 million Rand per year, which is a lot of money. I'm sure you'll agree that that's well within the top 1% of earners within the country. So an additional increase of 20.1% is very unrealistic. And in fairness, those captains actually earn a vast majority more than many of our executives that serve on our ExCo do. So quite where that argument comes from, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We've offered them a 5.7% increase on their basic salary, but again, when we look at the full cost of company, including bonuses, flight pays, and other elements, the actual offer on the table to those pilots is 11.29%, which I'm pretty sure you'll agree is hugely generous in an environment and an economy where major other companies like banks and others are only offering 4% increases to their customers given the low inflation rate at the moment.
So if you are so keen on getting the strike resolved and everyone getting back to their posts, Kirby, why did you not accept the CCMA's intervention? At least according to Solidarity, you've rejected that offer from the CCMA to intervene and try and get this a speedy resolution.
There's been no rejection of any offer from the CCMA. We've been working very closely with the CCMA throughout this entire process. Obviously, the talks have been protracted. In order to actually achieve a strike, a protected strike, one needs to engage with the CCMA processes in order to be able to achieve a strike certificate, which is, of course, what we've done. And we continue to engage in a meaningful and in a constructive manner. Despite this morning's surprises from the union, or last night's late surprises from the union, we are resolved to continue in good faith negotiations with the union, and that's where we'll be.
All right, Kirby, thank you for your time this morning. That's Kirby Gordon. He speaks on behalf of FlySAF Air. Let's do things slightly differently, Zai. My apologies. Let's go straight to Dineo Motaung with the latest news.
Thank you, Tulas. A very good morning. Let's take a look at the headlines at 7:30. Trade Union Solidarity says day one of its 2-week strike that has affected flights to fair operations after the airline confirmed that several of its planes have been grounded amid a wage dispute. In other news, 5 family members have been killed and 7 others seriously injured in a collision involving a bakkie and a light motor vehicle on the R66 near the Dokodweni Bridge in Gingindlovu, north of KwaZulu-Natal. And the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says an Israeli military evacuation order for central Gaza has dealt another devastating blow to efforts to keep people alive in the war-ravaged territory. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's start with the Junior Springboks, now known as the World Rugby Under-20 champions. They arrived back home this morning at OR Tambo International. They beat New Zealand 25-13 in the weekend's final in Italy, ending a 13-year title drought. The squad joins an elite club with past winners like Henry Pollard and Peter Steph du Toit. SA Rugby President Mark Alexander will welcome them at the airport, and fans are expected to gather in celebration. Now back home at Mbombela Stadium, the full Springbok squad roared to a dominant 55-10 win over Georgia in their final test, and that's before the Rugby Championship over the weekend. Cricket, the Proteas stormed into the Tri-Series T20 final with a 7-wicket win over Zimbabwe at the Harare Sports Club yesterday. The result eliminates Zimbabwe and sets up a final showdown against unbeaten New Zealand next Saturday. And more winnings for Team South Africa. Banyana, the defending Women's Africa Cup of Champions, they kept their title hopes alive. They needed penalties, though, to beat Senegal 4-1 in the quarterfinal that ended 0-0 after extra time. Banyana will meet Nigeria in the first semi-final tomorrow, 6 p.m, and you can catch it live on SABC Sport. And the 7-time world champion, that's Venus Williams, former world number 1, says she's embracing the challenge and joy. After a difficult year, she'll be back on court at the Washington Open today.
At the moment, I'm focused just on this. And I haven't played in a year. There's no doubt I can play tennis, but obviously coming back to play matches, it takes time to get in the swing of things. I definitely feel I'll play well. I'm still the same player. I'm a big hitter. I hit big. This is my brand. So it's about hitting big and actually putting it in. So this will be my effort. Put it in the court. That's my main goal.
And finally, golf. Scottie Scheffler lifting the claret jug for the first time after winning the 153rd Open yesterday. It's the first time the American won the title. He was 4 shots ahead of compatriot Harris English. Here's Scheffler.
It's a very special feeling. It takes a lot of work to get to this point in my career, and this was a tough week. It was challenging. The golf course was playing really tough, and I had to focus very hard over the course of the weekend. And really the only blemish over the last 36 holes was the double on 8, but did a good job of kind of resetting and coming back with a birdie on 9. And it's a very cool walk. It's a very special walk. To be honest with you, walking up 18, I didn't really know if I was going to get that much support from the crowd. The crowd, I think, wanted somebody else to win this week, and I kind of got to play spoiler a little bit, which is fun as well.
We'll swing back on the Morning Brief Sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We started Ekurhuleni, eastern side of Joburg, with tyres still burning in Tambisa this morning. Local routes inside Tambisa are blocked with those tyres and with stones and boulders, bigger rocks as well. So local difficulties negotiating Tambisa. The major routes that sort of surround Tambisa, Allendale Road, the R21, Modderfontein Road, Olifantsfontein, those routes are open. It very much is a localised protest inside the Tambisa area. Busy on the Mike 1 from Gold Reef City up to a crash near 11th Avenue. So that run up to Houghton Estate very slow this morning. N1, 14th Avenue around to Ravonia is pretty jam-packed, and the N3 from Germiston up through to Modderfontein Road, slow go as well. Crash coming out of Pretoria on the M1 south after Sefaka Makato. Big delays from sort of Pumalani Plaza side and the N4 Rustenburg Highway as you come down slowly through Montana on your way towards that crash at Storenville Road. Durban, the N2 North jam this morning from the M7 moving up through to Westwood Mall. The breakdown before Gateway looks like that's probably being clear. That run up to the airport is starting to ease Tambisa. Pietermaritzburg, Ashburton, checks fine, no problems there. And Cape Town just generally busier. The N1 inbound, you can see that, Plattekloof all the way through the city centre. And no lights on Marine Drive at Bay Beach Avenue. That's the first set of traffic lights coming out of Tableview at Sunset Beach. That's a big delay this morning. Traffic queuing all the way back into Sunningdale. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Here for the second update of the morning is Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, let's talk mining in this hour. Tell me about Anglo-American and these tensions with Botswana. They all have to do with the sale of De Beers, do they?
That's right, Sula. So Botswana owns 15% of the diamond producer, and according to sources, Botswana feels it hasn't been properly consulted about the deal. While the move is part of Anglo's restructuring plans, it seems like Botswana is considering options, including buying Anglo's stake. The potential sale comes as diamond prices remain under pressure due to the growth in lab-grown diamonds. Now, as Botswana assesses the situation, sources say the nation has appointed advisors from a Swiss firm to explore its options. There's also been increased tensions between the two parties, as Botswana says Anglo-American hasn't met with its some parliamentary members to discuss the sale process, despite the country having preemptive rights on any deal. Botswana's President Duma Boko also expressed frustration with De Beers, saying something drastic in that space will happen soon, and he emphasized that the diamonds belong to Botswana. Now, De Beers is critical to Botswana's economy, accounting for most of its exports and about a third of its revenue. The country's economy is expected to stagnate or contract this year due to a downturn in diamond sales.
So let's stick with the theme then. Tell me about Valterra Platinum and their expectations around earnings.
So Valterra Platinum, previously known as Anglo Platinum, is warning of a downbeat earnings due to a 25% drop in PGM sales volumes and a 1.4 billion rand once-off demerger related cost. The decline in earnings is attributed to lower refined production, largely due to significant rainfall and flooding that took place around February that disrupted operations at one of its mines. Now, Valterra Platinum expects to deliver metal in concentrate production within guidance, albeit at the lower end, and refined production guidance remains unchanged. The company has made progress in repairing and recovering operations at Amandelbult, with all mining operations being resumed there. Full year production is expected to be between 450,000 to 480,000 ounces, compared to 580,000 ounces a year ago. Now, despite this, analysts remain optimistic about the company, expecting the recent surge in platinum prices to give it a boost moving forward.
Lastly, Ndauling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets starting the week mixed, with traders assessing the People's Bank of China's move to leave rates unchanged. This despite concerns about growth. China's Shanghai index shrugging those concerns off, up 0.45%. Over in Wall Street, tariffs may be taking a bit of a backseat this week as traders look to earnings season for a sense of how companies have been navigating the uncertain environment. Ahead of those numbers, futures are trending higher. Then over at home, the JSE closing in the green last Friday, with the all share up close to 1.4%. That positive sentiment on local assets also filtering through to the rand this morning. It is trading stronger at 17.71 to the dollar.
All right, Ndauling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you in the third hour of the show, just after 8:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Salgado, Banyana Banyana player. Any song from Chris Brown could literally put me in the mood and make sure that I'm good to go. My favorite motivational quote, trust the process, but know that God is with you, you will always succeed. Between being a pilot and driving a bus, definitely a pilot to see the world and to take people along with me. South Africa, tune in to SABC Sport as we take on the Giants in the WAFCON. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
All right, let's bring you an update on protest action in the area of Tambisa in Ekurhuleni. The community members, they're starting to gather around midnight last night, and they're protesting about issues of the tariff hike to be introduced by the city of Ekurhuleni. Let's speak to Simphiwe Mavuso, who is an executive member of the Tambisa Community Forum. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So as I say, it's a protest action that's been building up over the last few hours. Tell me where things stand at the moment. The intention was to almost stage something of shutdown of the area to highlight the community's grievances.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and also good morning to the listeners. Well, look, this is what happened actually. So on Thursday, the MMC of Energy in Ekurhuleni was obviously at the meeting with regards to the tariff discussions. However, people now started being politicians and they said they don't know this. And okay, cool. Yesterday, again, people were called to come. Then, now the problem is he did not pitch at all. This is why the community now is actually frustrated to say, you said you will come on Sunday. Now, all of a sudden, people canceled their plans, you do not come. To give us the answer we need. Yeah. And they were clear that should you not come, there will be a shutdown.
So as we speak at the moment, what does that situation look like on the ground, the shutdown situation?
Well, at the moment, Tambisa is a no-go area. Police have been in and around the area since around midnight. They've been moving around just to check the situation and obviously assess damage to infrastructure. So there has not been any damage at the moment. So everything is still fine. But in terms of movement, no. There's no movement. Also, I see taxis are not even moving in Tambisa now.
What's at the heart of these demands? Is it a tariff that's specific to the city of Ekurhuleni, or is it linked to the tariffs that were coming through from Eskom to be translated to, a percentage at municipal level for municipal customers?
So basically, the tariff needs to go away. The reason for this, it was never communicated to the community. So this was, I think, on the 1st of July. People were surprised. They were purchasing electricity. However, now, if your electricity is off, you're not getting power. So we're like, okay, what's going on? Only after everybody started, the tariff that's been introduced. But why was this ever communicated to the community? Because we even made an example, say, if an old age woman, for argument's sake, they are not on the indigent policy of the municipality, you need to now pay the 126 first before you purchase electricity. And this is every month. Now you need to have at least 250 at the beginning of the month to purchase electricity.
Yeah.
If you do not have that, what then?
Yeah. Sorry, could you just say that again, Simphiwe? We lost you there for a moment. Your line wasn't so great. There's a figure that you mentioned that you say would need now to be a baseline for anyone purchasing electricity in order for them to get enough units that would make a difference in terms of their energy needs. Say that line again. We lost you there for a moment.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we're saying there's the 126. So that's the amount after that. That's been introduced, and I think it's 200 and should be around 240 as well. So we're saying if you do not have that amount, unfortunately, you will not be able to get electricity. So we are saying do away with that amount altogether. Find another way of raising that amount because we now realize this is linked to the missing 2 billion rand in Ekurhuleni.
Wow.
So they must then find that money. Somebody stole that money, so they must then try to get that money.
Yeah.
Wherever they get it from.
So as far as
they
we are
must not
concerned,
make
it's a revenue generation mechanism. Yeah.
Because Tambisa alone can generate the 2 billion rand.
Mm.
So now it is not implemented in the whole of Ekurhuleni. It's actually in Tambisa, but
Sure.
it's applied indirectly. So it's the whole of Ekurhuleni, but we did our checks, so it's not everybody in Ekurhuleni is paying some out.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for sharing the details with us this morning. That is Simphiwe Mavuso, who is an executive member of the Tambisa Community Forum. So some protest action on the go there. They're calling it a shutdown. In fact, let me speak to Maxwell, who is in Tambisa this morning. Maxwell, good morning. You are calling in because you are stuck in Tambisa. Tell me what's happening.
Yeah, Thulas, thanks for having me, and good morning to the listeners, Thulas. It looks like there's no go area when you want to take the trip via Hospital View. Everything is blocked, burning tires, and a lot of things that is happening. You can't even move out of Tambisa at the moment. And my worry tomorrow, remember, there are schools that are opening, Thulas.
Yeah.
So what is going to happen tomorrow? It's a big question that a lot of people are asking themselves. As they didn't even go to work this morning, they have to call their bosses that are struck and stranded. I think the Metro or Ekurhuleni people that are involved, they need to sort this mess as soon as possible, Thulas, in that regard, because it looks like it's burning the whole people that are stuck around. But I did call with another point, Thulas, in that regard. As Mbombela, we all know that the rugby was there, an element of stealing that happened in that game, Thulas. Two people that happened to come from Gauteng to find themselves in Mbombela snatching the cell phone. It's a worry because it's a norm that it's happening in most of our big sporting events, that it's happening in the country as well, Thulas.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Maxwell. Just on Tambisa itself, how would you describe it at the moment? Is it disruptive, but yet not violent?
Yeah, it's not violent, but what we have been told is that don't try to drive in and around. Just wait for the situation to calm itself. Right. Probably even the Metro Police around Ekurhuleni might deal with the situation. It's still very early in the morning. Probably the situation can be improved, but at the moment, I'll urge everyone who wants to come out of Tambisa to remain where they are.
Great stuff. Thank you for that, Maxwell, in Tambisa, and thank you for just sharing what you have observed in and around the areas of Tambisa. In fact, let me go to Kenneth, who is in Davidton. Good morning to you, Kenneth. You heard something in the conversation I had with Simphiwe Mavuso that you want to clarify and correct.
Yes, morning to us and morning to the SOFM listeners. I just wanted to say that the gentleman from Tambisa, he said that whatever the Ekurhuleni is implementing is already being implemented in Tambisa. No, in Davidton, there's something happened. So it's not Tambisa.
Yeah. So that rate, explain it to me. What's that rate that they are implementing? Because the way I understood Simphiwe is that basically you could be paying, 250 rand to buy electricity, but what you get will be far less than that.
Yes, I stay in Faramia Pinoni. I have a house in Davidton, home is Davidton. So my mother called me last month and said, hey, look, I bought electricity and I tried to put in the voucher, but nothing came out. So I went to the city of Ekurhuleni, and Pinoni, and they said to me, it's something, they try to explain, I don't understand exactly, but all I'm trying to say is that it was implemented in Davidton also. It's not
it's across Ekurhuleni, not just
in
Tambisa.
It's the whole of Ekurhuleni, yes. Because I know about 3 people went to the customer care center, 2 in Davidton, those are my mother's neighbor. I went to the Pinoni one, they told me the same thing.
All right. No, thank you for that, Kenneth. I think we definitely need to follow up with the city of Ekurhuleni for them to just explain what this tariff is, what it's meant to achieve, and how it's being implemented, taking into account community concerns. Kingston in Kimberley, good morning to you. You want to talk about this issue of shootings that occur at taverns?
Yes, good morning, Thulas.
Good morning.
Good morning, Thulas, and your listeners. Thulas, actually, the convener that you were interviewing, he just spoke out of his, I don't know what. Because, how can you say just because of one simple incident that people lost their lives in a Shebeen, and then you say all the Shebeens now have to be closed in the country. I mean, you can't make such a statement. If there's a shooting incident in a supermarket, will you say all the supermarkets should be closed in the country? No. Actually, what you should know that the Shebeens, actually, we have to fight. We have to ask the country to at least give them permits, because now when we speak about people that are not having jobs in our country, and then these people, they make a livelihood, because we grew up with these Shebeens in our communities, and they happen to be one of the safest places that people can go and enjoy their drinks. They don't actually have to be called Shebeens any longer. They need to be called chillers, that people can chill without being hindered, because by loud music, one in a Shebeen, there's no loud music. There are no many people there. It's only people that live in the same area that are just enjoying themselves. Maybe Thulasizwe place. Thulasizwe is just selling 5 cases of his beers for people that have no time to go to taverns. And then you want to say, close that place. Why should you close a Shebeen instead of regulating a Shebeen? Because we are in Kimberley, we are actually trying to get Shebeens to get permits. Because taverns, there are a lot of children there, a lot of out of line things there. But in a Shebeen, it's a lot of people that so you cannot just go. The children they would rather prefer to go to a tavern, because at a tavern you can just do as you wish. In a Shebeen, it's like a home. It's like a house where people just sit there with order, no loud music, no tsotis there. Why should you close a Shebeen? Because it's very safe. But it's unfortunate for the lives that were lost there. Really, it's not something that we are up in the country, but it happens a lot in Shebeen.
Is there no, Kingston, very quickly, is there no safety and security issue that applies specifically to a Shebeen setting, the kind that you described, that people are chilling, as you say, at home? It's almost like a normal house, and people just gather there and know that drinks are sold there, in many instances not licensed. Is there no element of vulnerability that comes specifically with that kind of a setting?
No whatsoever. As I tell you, all those people, they are acquainted to each other. They know each other. And people who actually go to Shebeens are people who don't want to go to taverns. So that's why because they're afraid of those violence and those shootings and all the things that are happening in the taverns. So that's why they prefer to chill at a quiet and place that is very tranquil. So that's why I say to the people, let us actually go for Shebeens to get permits, not closing them down.
Gotcha. Kingston in Kimberley, thank you for your call this morning. We will take a few more of your calls a bit later on.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It has been a Monday morning marked with bigger volumes than we've had for the last couple of weeks. That is noticeable. School's back tomorrow, and a big pile of traffic coming back into Gauteng on multiple routes yesterday, and you can feel that this morning all over, particularly the Gauteng province. We've also got crashes on the N1 South after Sefaka Makato. Big traffic coming through from Pumulani Plaza down through Montana on your way towards Stormful into that one. Also the N1 between Bayers Nordier and Rivonia quite slow. Crash on the Mike 1 North happened earlier this morning up at Houghton Estate. That's why it's so badly backed up from Boyson's on your way through to Santon. There's a crash at Galuli's, the N12 and R24 routes backed up coming into Galuli's. That seems being cleared, but the backlog's still with us. In the R21, the slow part this morning on the way to the airport, moving down towards the work zone at Pomona Road. Protesting at Tambisa remains very much inside Tambisa, so no impact spilling over onto the main routes across that region. Pietermaritzburg down to Camperdown looks fine. Ashburton area okay this morning. M13 coming out of Pinetown towards the N3 Paradise Valley. If you're leaving Pinetown on your way to Durban, that's quite slow. Cape Town crash into inbound at Jan Smuds Drive, so passing Langa. It is quite busy. A broken down truck on Valhalla Drive at Matroosfontein causing delays both ways, and no traffic lights on Marine Drive at Sunset Beach. The first lights coming out of Tableview are down. That's Bay Beach Avenue. The traffic all the way back through to Sunningdale. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, 6 minutes to 8. In fact, make that 5 minutes to 8. Let's focus our attention on this story now. The Department of Health raising concern over a gradual increase in confirmed Mpox cases, with 2 new infections reported in Gauteng and the Western Cape. This brings the total number of laboratory confirmed cases to 10 since the beginning of the year. In response, the department has launched a targeted vaccination campaign in the most affected provinces to try and curb the spread of the virus. Let's speak to Dr. Leslie Bamford, who is child health specialist at the National Department of Health. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. So, in terms of numbers, for those who don't have an understanding of concerns around Mpox, 10 since the beginning of the year doesn't sound like a lot, but it's enough to have you concerned as health officials. Why?
So, good morning, and good morning to the listeners. So certainly, it's not a very large number of cases, but I think there are 2 things to be aware of. First of all, we know that because the symptoms of Mpox are relatively non-specific, for every case that we diagnose, there probably are more cases where the diagnosis is not being made. Second of all, the fact that we do continue to see cases means that we know that the virus is circulating in South Africa. So there is a risk that we could see a surge in the number of cases.
But another particularly concerning factor, I imagine, from your side is that the cases that we're talking about now, the 2 new cases, are cases of people with no travel history that could link them to outbreak regions, are they?
So that's correct. So as I indicated, that shows us that the virus is circulating. It's being transmitted from one person to another in South Africa. We also, working with the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, we monitor wastewater, and the virus has been detected there, which again indicates that it is circulating in the country.
Yeah.
With regards to vaccination, we have a small quantity of Mpox vaccines. Vaccines are not widely available, but we have received approximately 10,000 doses. And we are very anxious that those doses are administered to people who are at highest risk of contracting Mpox.
So what's that criteria? What does it look like, mainly in the provinces that are mostly affected? How do you prioritize the vaccination program?
So obviously it's quite difficult to prioritize given the small number of vaccines. However, so we are prioritizing the 3 provinces where cases have been detected. That's the first level of prioritization. Then there are 4 groups that we are targeting. So the first is obviously contacts of cases of Mpox, household and other contacts. Those people should be vaccinated. Secondly, healthcare workers and laboratory workers who are likely to be in contact with cases of Mpox. Thirdly, people who are traveling to areas where there are large outbreaks of Mpox, and currently that is predominantly Central and West Africa. And then thirdly, we know that there are people who are at high risk because of sexual practices, particularly men who have sex with men and other people who have multiple sexual partners. So vaccination is available in the 3 provinces. It has started in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. It will be starting in Western Cape from the 1st of August. And anyone who self-identifies as being in one of those 4 groups should please either discuss vaccination with their healthcare worker, or there are sites offering vaccination in all the districts in Gauteng. The list of sites is available on our National Department of Health website, and people can go directly to those facilities to be vaccinated.
And lastly, Doc, I suppose it's always important to revisit what Mpox is and in terms of the symptoms. with reference, of course, now inevitably being the recent experiences with the COVID, pandemic that we had a couple of years ago?
So, Mpox is a viral illness, so many of the symptoms are quite non-specific, those associated with viral illness. Fever, headache, tiredness, sore throat, and then there is a very particular rash. Starts as small, what we call papules, and then becomes a blistering rash that then the blisters burst and they scab over. That rash can be generally on the body, can also be in the genital area if if the person has acquired Mpox through sexual contact. So we also are working with our healthcare workers to make sure that we do identify all the cases that are presenting to our health facilities.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Dr. Leslie Bamford, who is a child health specialist at the Department of Health. Dineo Motaung on standby with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
Thank you, Tulas. A very good morning. Top stories: operations disrupted as FlySafair pilots begin strike, and UN slams Gaza evacuation as setback to relief efforts. Trade Union Solidarity says day one of its 2-week strike has affected FlySafair operations after the airline confirmed that several of its planes have been grounded amid a wage dispute. This despite earlier reassurances that operations would not be affected by the start of the strike. FlySafair pilots have rejected the airline's 5.7% wage increase offer, sticking to their demand of 10.5% salary hike. Solidarity's Deputy General Secretary
Throughout last week and over the weekend, they indicated that there will be minimal impact. And then last night at about 10 o'clock, we saw on their website and on some of their social media platforms that they've indicated that a lot of flights are being cancelled. I quickly counted more than 20 flights that are being cancelled. So I think it's a very good indication that they aren't able to sustain their flight schedule, and to me it seems as though they delayed it as late as possible to communicate that to the South African public.
We move to KZN now, where the R66 road near the Dokotweni Bridge in Gingindlovu in the north of the province has been reopened following a collision last night that led to a closure. 5 family members have been killed and 7 others seriously injured. Amongst the deceased is a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old baby. KZN Transport and Human Settlement spokesperson Ndabezindle Sibiya.
The road has been reopened, but we are still, busy with all the rescue operations, especially the recovery operations, because it's a very busy stretch of road with many people, going back to, their workplaces. As you know, that we had, the winter holidays over the past couple of weeks.
And in other news, the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is expected to resume in the High Court in Pretoria today. 5 men are on trial for the murder of then Bafana captain at his girlfriend Kelly Khumalo's home in Vosloorus, east of Johannesburg, in October 2014. More than 2 weeks ago, High Court officials travelled to Vosloorus at the site where one of the accused, Muzi Sibiya, has alleged that police assaulted him. This follows Sibiya's arrest in May 2020. He demonstrated how he was allegedly kicked and suffocated on a pavement outside the Ekurhuleni municipal building.
I was seated like this. When I was seated like this is where they would put on the plastic, and I ended up laying down. I was at all times handcuffed, but my feet were not ironed, or that there were no leg irons in my feet. And then I was made to sit like this, and as I indicated, handcuffed. And then it was at that time when they then started to put plastic over me and started to assault me.
However, the lead investigator, Brigadier Bongani Gininda, denied Sibiya's claims. Instead, Gininda took the High Court officials to the nearby police station, saying that's where Sibiya had admitted involvement in the murder.
This is where we parked, and this is where I had a discussion with him, and from here, we then went to Airlines. That's the court that I said, closer to the police station. The closest building is the court, and that is the court, which has its own entrance from the police station.
Some residents in Beckersdal Township in Gauteng's West Rand have expressed concern about the quality of water coming out of their taps. Independent tests conducted by NGOs on the tap water samples between May and June this year has found traces of the E. coli bacteria and other pollutants. However, the Rand West local municipality has refuted the claims and insists that the water is safe to consume. These residents say it's noted that the water does not taste the same, especially following the recent series of water cuts in the area.
The water is a bit clear. It's not actually clear, it's a bit clear. But then when there is a water cut and the water comes back, it's actually...
The water of this community is good, but when you leave it overnight, it's not 100% good because when you watch it properly, it seems like there is some small bubble.
Lastly, further afield, the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says Israeli military evacuation order for central Gaza has dealt another devastating blow to efforts to keep people alive in the war-ravaged territory. Yesterday, Israel ordered Palestinians to move south due to military operations. The BBC's Ian Skippers has more.
Many of the people in central Gaza ordered to move were already displaced. Whole families were seen lugging their few belongings once again. The United Nations Office for Humanitarian Affairs says the order will limit the ability of aid agencies to move around, choking humanitarian access where it is needed most. The UN also repeated its warnings that many Gazans are dying from hunger and need an urgent influx of food as Israel continues to strictly limit the flow of aid. One woman told the BBC people were surviving on water and salt.
Recapping the top story at 8, Trade Union Solidarity says day one of its 2-week strike has affected fly-safe operations after the airline confirmed that several of its planes have been grounded amid a wage dispute. Headlines at 8:30 for SAFM News. I'm Dinoma Taung.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Breaking news just in. Pinky, a 60-year-old woman, slashed 870 Rand a month of her car insurance premium. That's right. Pinky switched to Outsurance and now saves a mind-blowing 870 Rand a month on her 2020 Kia Seltos 1.6. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 08600 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket, it's Ruben Herman who shines in Harare as the Proteas down Zimbabwe in the T20 Tri-Series. And in rugby, the junior Springboks to touch down at OR Tambo as Under-20 World Championships. They are back on home soil. We'll have the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heading on the Gauteng highways this morning. Here's the big ones. The N1 South in Pretoria crash after Sefako Makato. Really big traffic coming down from Pumalani Plaza through the Montana exit and down towards the crash down by the Stormfall exit. Joburg's Mike 1 remains heavy from Ormonde up to Houghton. That's a crash near 11th Avenue. The N3 Germiston through Edenvale's pretty heavily backed up. And there's a breakdown on the R21 South approaching the airport just before you get to the airport exit. So that's quite slow as well. Durban's M13 coming out of Pinetown, St John's Avenue Bridge through Stapleton Road, heading to Paradise Valley is quite slow and sluggish. Peterborough through Ashburton, Camperdown, both ways looking fine. No problems at this stage. Cape Town, heavy pressure on Marine Drive. Big backlogs from Sunningdale to Sunset Beach. The lights at Sunset Beach are off today. A bit of rain across Cape Town as well. The N1 inbound, Plattercliff to City Centre is heavy, and the M5 backlogging from Kenilworth up to Cuba. Get a change. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
10 minutes after 8 on this Monday, it is great to be in your company. We are into the third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. So just reflecting on the conversation that started in the last hour, reflecting on the protests that are taking place in Tambisa, in Ekurhuleni, that have to do with a tariff that is being imposed by the city on electricity across Ekurhuleni. The residents, some residents of Tambisa taking to the streets this morning. There's been a statement that has come through, and one of the listeners highlighting it for us, and thank you for that, that came through from the office of the executive mayor, which says, and I'll read portions of it. It says, the executive mayor has noted with serious concern the public outcry regarding the fixed charge on electricity tariffs. In an attempt to resolve the impasse, the executive mayor convened an emergency meeting with the relevant stakeholders. The emergency meeting resolved to direct the Department of Energy and Finance to finalize their comprehensive reports on what can possibly be considered. As part of the commitment to inclusive governance and accountability, a follow-up and feedback meeting will be held at 11 a.m. on the 21st of July, that is today, between all relevant stakeholders. So there you have it. Emergency meeting has been held. There will be a follow-up and feedback meeting that will be held today to see, quote unquote, what can possibly be considered in relation to that concern around a fixed charge on electricity tariffs. So that really is at the heart of the concerns by some residents of Tambisa who are taking to the streets this morning. Do weigh in on that issue. But also let me tell you what's coming up in this hour. We'll be talking to Tsepo Matseba, who is a reputation analyst. We'll be talking about that incident that I'm sure many of you have seen, that video of the Astronomer Inc. CEO Andy Brown. Well, he's now resigned after he was caught in a video that went viral. He was attending a concert with a colleague, and they were seen in an embrace, a colleague who is not his wife. And they were caught in an embrace and beamed on a big screen. It was at a Coldplay concert. We're not trying to, get ourselves bogged down in the moralities involved in that issue. Who are we to judge? Who are we to weigh in on those issues? But we want to take questions around the executive accountability that has been exacted in that particular instance by Astronomer Inc. and draw comparisons with how we deal with issues of embarrassment and bringing the organization into disrepute in our own context, whether at an executive level or indeed at a government level. What lessons are there on how to deal with issues that have to do with the reputation of an organization? That really is the essence of our conversation at about 20 past 8. Do give me a call, 086 000 2032. Also, send me WhatsApp voice notes, 061 410 4107. Let's get the third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me start with one or two of your voice notes. The Fly Surfair strike is one of the issues dominating, but also the issue of former President Jacob Zuma and what he's had to say about the MK party's position on Western Sahara in relation to Morocco.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and SAFM listeners. Marco Maseko here in Ferreira. Thulasizwe, I'm just worried, man. Why is ANC confronting Jacob Zuma via media? Why can't they just confront him personally? They know him. He's one of their own. If they wanted to know more about his trip to Morocco, why can't they just go to him and ask him? Why are they confronting? Why are they making media statement about Jacob Zuma? He's causing them a lot of chain pains. Thank you very much.
No,
fought.
Thank you for that. So a big part of politics is public, right? It's about showing your opponent to be just a bad person, a person that the voters must just simply not trust, and that's why even the MK party itself does exactly the same on some of these issues. You will see that they also do the same to go public and make as much noise as possible on some of the issues. So it is part of politics, part of the game of politics, that you must cast your opponent as being the worst that there is. Let me take this one on flight cancellations.
Morning, Chulas. Yeah, on Saturday I booked a flight from Johannesburg to Durban at around 10 to 8. And I've just got a message today that that flight is now cancelled. And I've got the message this morning. It's very inconvenient.
Yeah, I can imagine. It must be very inconvenient. And we'll have to see, what the overall impact is. My overall experience, having covered strikes over many years, is that management will try and downplay the impact. So therefore, they'll give you their side and say, no, it's business as usual. We may have all our 90% or whatever pilots being on strike, but the impact really isn't that bad. But also at the same time, labor will try and play up the impact. So the truth usually is somewhere in between, that there is a level of impact, but perhaps, they're not as minimal as management says it is, but not as high as the workers say it is. Let's see how it all unfolds, and importantly, how soon they can get that situation resolved. Let me take a call from Crispin in Durban. Good morning to you, Crispin.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. I was very struck recently that there were people phoning in saying South Africa is a banana republic. They got it wrong. Mm-hmm. Here's an example to prove what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When Ramaphosa was in the White House and Donald Trump said to him, arrest that man, meaning Malema, Ramaphosa actually correctly said, well, we don't do things like that. We have a constitution. We have ways of doing things. We just don't arrest people on the basis of an allegation. Now, the same absolutely must apply in the case of Senzo Mngcono and Mkhwanazi. The fact that somebody gets up and makes allegations, even like somebody who would have some evidence available to them, that's not enough to proceed with any kind of action against the person. Stepping aside makes sense, sure, but you've got to have some formal presentation of evidence. There's got to be a docket. There's got to be the basis for a prosecution before you can proceed. Now, I think everyone on both sides should be agreeing to that nobody can just be arrested on the basis of a say-so.
Yeah. And haven't we had enough of those examples, Crispin, where the allegation was made, it was prominent, but eventually there was the need for a retraction? And I'm agreeing with you that due process must be part of our DNA of how we do things in these issues. Right now, I'm thinking of the example of that school principal in the area of Matatiele and how that unraveled after he was accused so publicly.
Yeah, and this is what's wrong with so much of these sort of so-called community actions against violence. There's no due process. There's no protection of the people involved. People on both sides must be protected. People undervalue the Constitution until they suddenly realize that they benefit from it.
All right, Crispin, thank you for that. That's Crispin in Durban. Let me go to Warren in Stutterheim. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you and the listeners.
Long time, Warren.
Regarding the Mpox Bridge, this is just one example of the, inverted commas, contractors in this country. First of all, they haven't got any money, so they get in advance, okay? And I'm talking about things that happen in Stutterheim.
Yes.
Man is contracted to build a road. He charges 3 million. He makes such a mess, and then he leaves because he's not finished. And, this is the problem. Our good engineers, civil engineers, have all gone overseas. And we all know why, unfortunately. But if a person is supposed to be a contractor and build something with concrete and steel, he mustn't just be able to mix dagga. And that's all they can do. They mix dagga, these people, and they got no idea of how cement works. Typical example, the George collapse.
Yeah.
So, I rest my case.
I hear you,
And I
Warren.
can
So when you say
guarantee
they
a lot
mixed,
of people in this country will agree with me. Okay, have a good day. Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Warren, thank you for that. That's Warren making his point and exiting the stage without any further engagement on my part. If I heard Warren correctly, when he says they just mix dagga, I don't want people misunderstanding that. The way I understand it dagga is, mud. As opposed to mixing proper concrete. That's that's what Warren was talking about. Mukwena in Rustenburg, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about Senzo Mchunu?
The last time I called, you cut me off.
I did not. Mukwena, please go ahead with your Mchunu issue, my brother. I'm listening. I'm not fighting. I'm listening to you. Let's go ahead with the issue you called.
The last time I called, the time was up. Hence
yes, that's the proper one. The time was up. Yes, you have time now. In fact, Mukwena, let me give you a whole minute. Mukwena, I'm giving you a whole minute where I will say nothing. You will speak.
Okay.
Go.
But I want to engage you this morning. The day that I called, what I wanted to say was this. I wanted to say that to thank your parents because they had a heart for this country. For the fact of naming you Thulasizwe, meaning they could see that the country was not in a good shape, and they were saying that there should be peace into the country. That's what I planned on that particular day. And then now, what I want to say is the fact that we have President Ramaphosa who decided to give Mr. Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, a leave of absence. And then I'm saying that's the reason behind it is the fact that there are serious allegations against the police minister. And now, if indeed what the president decided to do is right, was he not supposed to give himself a leave of absence while there were serious allegations on Pala for him? That's what I wanted to say.
Mukwena,
and I wanted to engage you on that.
Yeah.
Whether do you agree to that or you don't agree to that?
So what's the proposition?
The proposition is the fact that was the president not supposed to give himself or recuse himself or give himself a leave of absence while they were
the Pala investigation was ongoing.
Exactly.
All right, got you, Mukwena. Thank you. I think you and I, you'll find, Mukwena, I'm going to let you go now because I do need to go to the next interview. But I want to make the point that you will find that your suspicion that I'm trying to cut you off and censor you, with time, you'll realize, Mukwena, that there's none of that. And do keep calling in, and I will take your calls each and every time not each and every time, wherever possible, we will take your call. As to whether President Ramaphosa should have recused himself, that point has been made. People have made that point that he should have done exactly the same. There's been, of course, this report that says he was even prepared to resign. I don't know how true that is, but I've seen that claim being made that he was convinced to not resign even as those investigations were unfolding. That was Mukwena in Rustenburg there.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the Caps Hotel Energy's Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
24 minutes after 8. Well, you will have seen the video. Astronomer Inc. is facing a public relations crisis after its CEO, Andy Byron, abruptly resigned in the wake of a viral video showing him in an affectionate moment with a colleague who was not his wife at a Coldplay concert. The incident, which exploded on social media, has not only ended Byron's leadership but also sparked scrutiny of the company's internal culture and executive accountability. Let's speak to Tsepo Matseba, who is a reputation analyst, who joins us now on the line. Good morning to you, Tsepo, and thank you for your time. So it's quite easy to dismiss this as this is a morality issue, infidelity, insinuations of infidelity that these people should have to deal with their partners, their wives, etc. In the case of Byron, his wife. But there's been accountability in the form of the CEO resigning. When you look it over and you think it over, what does it say about the executive accountability coming through from what many would say is an affair that has to do with the people involved?
Yeah, good morning, Thulas and the listeners. I must say it's a difficult conversation to have, but for a company or where an entity is involved, an organization, a company, a government department, the policy of the organization prevails. And in this specific instance, the issue from a company perspective is not whether an individual had a private moment with their private person in a private event. But even though that may count to a certain extent, but the bigger issue in terms of the values of the organization, the policy of the organization, is that there is an employee and there's a superior of that employee. And in this case, there are two senior executives of an organization, and one is a CEO and one is a chief people officer. And the two of them happen to have an affair. Mm-hmm. And that brings into question, it starts to test questions around sexual harassment, but it also tests questions about the integrity of the organization, because a partner to the wife or a partner to the husband might actually say, but you have created an enabling environment for my partner to actually be involved in extramural affairs, which by implication affects a contractual relationship that I may have with them. And as a result, it brings the company into disrepute. And that's the actual debate, and an extension of it is that the values of the company may say we and our employees act with integrity, which is a common theme for most organizations as a value. And as a result, they may say, even if it was an affair that was captured between the CEO and a service provider, for example, or a CEO and an artist at an event, it could have had a similar impact, reputationally speaking.
Is this something we see even in our own corporate culture, in our own executive leadership culture, even in the state? Do we see something similar, or do we see the opposite of people, even when the allegations they face are objectively, damaging to the reputation of the organization, but they will stand firm and say, I remain innocent until proven guilty and I'm going nowhere?
Yeah, South Africa's ecosystem, both corporate and public sector, is very difficult to understand and to maneuver. Often you find leaders who actually will stay on and say, I'm innocent until proven guilty. And companies and management, often in the private sector, they will do their best to protect their name and protect their own by not taking any action publicly, but instead dealing with matters behind the scenes, hoping that it will die down at some point, and you'll see leaders re-emerge. In the public sector, public and private sector, even though where money is involved, where it's explicit that there was allegations of corruption and money was misspent, funds were mismanaged, you'll see that individuals will still insist on due process to a point where at some point 4 years later, they might actually officially resign or the contract might end, and they might even get a handshake after something like this happened, something worse than this.
in fact. So in SA, I doubt that a case like this, I mean, we've seen cases of sexual harassment leading people to some consequences, but it wouldn't be in South African context an immediate resignation. I've not seen a resignation. South Africa's democratic system, I guess, also the Labour Relations Act would make it easier for people to go through due process over a period of time, and then consequences would follow.
All right, Tsepo, let's leave it there for this morning. That's Tsepo Matseba, who is MD of Reputation First.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. We'll start with cricket. South Africa's Ruben Herman says a key third wicket partnership helped anchor the Proteas' win over Zimbabwe in their latest T20 Tri-Series clash in Harare. He struck a career best 63 while captain Rassie van der Dussen added 52 not out.
Nice because we both just knew if we just batted, we'll score quick enough. We were both ruthless on bad balls and so on. Luckily, we got a couple of them, and so just took good batsmanship, and then we just keep speaking on our options and just playing good cricket, because then our aggressive nature will take care of the scoring by itself. So it was just sticking together for as long as possible, and unfortunately, I fell short again with my job to finish the game, which I'm quite disappointed that I didn't, but we'll get there. So then Russ and I just said, if we just bat, we'll score quick enough, and then the runs will just keep ticking off, and then we can finish it off at the end.
On to rugby. The junior Springboks, now the World Rugby Under-20 champions, arrived back home this morning at 10:30 at OR Tambo International. They beat New Zealand 23-15 in the final in Italy. And netball, the Golden Fireballs clinched their maiden Telkom netball title with a 47-40 win over the defending champions, the Free State Crinums, at the Durban ICC yesterday. Tennis former world number 1 Venus Williams is embracing the challenge and the joy after a difficult year with health issues. The 45-year-old prepares for her return at the Washington Open today.
At the moment, I'm focused just on this, and I haven't played in a year. There's no doubt I can play tennis, but obviously coming back to play matches, it takes time to get in the swing of things. I definitely feel I'll play well. I'm still the same player. I'm a big hitter. I hit big. This is my brand. So it's about hitting big and actually putting it in. So this will be my effort. Put it in the court. That's my main goal.
And cycling, the Belgian champion Tim Wellens claimed his first Tour de France stage victory with a breakaway win on stage 15. And finally, MotoGP, Marc Marquez won the Grand Prix of Czechia for his 8th GP of the season to extend his lead in the championship.
I mean, I'm riding in a very good way. I'm calm. The races I can manage as I want, but it's true that we need to keep the same mentality, focus, and I want to say thanks to the team, because we cannot forget that it's a new team for me. But the fact that it's a new team makes everything more interesting. These first races, this first part of the season.
And that's the Checkered Flag for now. We'll have more sport with John Hediker around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
With headlines at 8:30, I'm Dino Modaung. Good morning. Trade Union Solidarity says day one of its 2-week strike has affected fly-safer operations after the airline confirmed that several of its planes have been grounded amid a wage dispute. In other news, police are probing a double murder after a man and a woman were gunned down in Lentegeur in Michel's Plain on the Cape Flats, and the R66 road near the Dokotweni Bridge in Gingindlovu north of KwaZulu-Natal has been reopened following a collision last night that led to a closure. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And a couple of top stories we're watching on the traffic desk. Tambisa, top of the pile because of the unrest, the community unrest that continues inside Tambisa. It is very much a local protest inside Tambisa, just spilling over now onto Modderfontein Road. That's the road that runs through sort of Ruby Ridge and Ivory Park to and from Tambisa, not the R25 Modderfontein Road, but that local sort of road that goes between Tambisa and Midrand. So that section is now closed, very close closures near the big mall in Tambisa, and sort of all over. There's just a lot of rocks and debris on multiple routes. So various localised routes like the Olifantsfontein Road through Clayville, R21 and Allendale Road, all of the Zeefontein, all of those major routes are open. So you can get around the area, but getting in and out is a bit difficult. Joburg's Mike 1 North, a crash this morning at 11th Avenue. Now another one before Oxford Road. So that traffic that's piled up from Boysons remains that way. Big delays coming out of Pretoria, N1 South from the N4, Bakwena Highway, all the way down through Montana towards a crash by Stormful. It's very heavy. If you're joining off that Rustenburg Highway, all coming through from Pumalani Plaza, a lot of pressure there. Durban, the breakdown on the N2 North of Gateway, that's clear. Traffic starting to flow through. Cape Town, all sorts of issues in the rain this morning on the N2, a breakdown at Bunga Avenue, a crash at Jan Smuts, and a crash before Rappenberg. So that run through from sort of Langa to Hospital Bend under a bit of pressure. And there's also some very heavy traffic, no other reason than just pure volume coming from Justenburg through Kraaifontein into Brackenfell. Big traffic on that N1 this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Here with the third update of the morning is Ndauling Lechela. Ndauling, let's start with BHP. Tell me about them ditching their nickel operations. What's that about?
So the global mine has agreed to sell its 17% stake in the Kabanga nickel project in Tanzania to its partner Life Zone Metals for up to $83 million. The deal involves Life Zone acquiring BHP's interest in Kabanga Nickel Limited, which owns 84% of the project's operating company, Tembo Nickel Corporation. The Tanzanian government holds the remaining 16% of TNCL. Now, the Kabanga project is expected to produce around 50,000 metric tons of nickel annually once fully ramped up, with a final investment decision due next year. Lifezone will assume full control of the project's offtake and terminate existing agreements with BHP. The diversified miner had previously agreed to invest up to $100 million in the project if certain conditions were met. Now, with the sale, Lifezone now owns 100% of KNL and will be responsible for the project's development, which is estimated to cost $2.49 billion. Now, the deal comes as BHP shifts its view on nickel due to increased output from Indonesia, which has impacted nickel prices. Following other miners just 2 weeks ago, South 32 also said it plans to ditch its nickel assets.
Sure. And in fact, I think I was confusing the two stories. So I'm glad you mentioned the other one, South 32, and their decisions around their nickel operations. Tell me about Hyprop. You're saying that they're moving ahead with the bid to acquire MAS. Who is MAS?
So MAS Tulas is a property company listed on the JSE, but most of their assets are in Central and Eastern Europe. Hyprop, a local player, but they want to increase their exposure in Europe, and so they're bidding for MAS's assets. There's just been a battle for control really unfolding in the sector between both Hyprop and one of MAS's shareholders, PKI Investments. PKI is trying to increase their stake in MAS to acquire a controlling stake, while Hyprop has a alternative bid, and we're seeing that playing out and really waiting for shareholders to vote for which bid works for the company. Hyprop's bid comes months after tensions within the company fueled by suspended dividends and shareholder frustration with the company's complex joint venture structure with one of its largest shareholder, Prime Capital. Now, if MAS agrees to the merger with Hyprop, the Canal Walk Mall owner plans to consolidate MAS into its operations, expanding its presence in Romania, Bulgaria, and Poland. The company has raised 800 million rands through a share placement to fund the bid. A competing proposal from Prime Capital Investments offers an alternative strategy, selling off MAS's assets over 5 years and returning proceeds to shareholders via special dividends. PKI's plan would deliver maximum value without overhauling the company's ownership. PKI's plan, however, faced major backlash at a recent shareholder meeting. Back to the Hyprop bid, MAS has said the outcome will depend on shareholder support, with Hyprop requiring backing by Friday to proceed.
All right, lastly, Ndawling, how are the markets looking at this hour? And importantly, what kind of a day can we expect in the markets on this Monday?
The local markets likely to open in the green as sentiment stays positive. A slim day in terms of local company news. Traders will wake up to some M&A activity by Sibanye Stillwater. Investors also looking out for the local inflation print that out on Wednesday, and that likely to also impact the rand. Ahead of the print, though, the local unit trading stronger at 17.69 to the dollar. Then over in the US, company news under the spotlight, tech earnings in focus with numbers out from Tesla and Alphabet later this week. Futures in the meantime are in the green. Lastly, over in Asia, stocks trading mostly higher with the Shanghai index leading the gains up close to 0.7%.
Always right on the money. That's the morning briefs in Ndawling Lechela. And Ndawling, thank you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hi, I'm Gabriela Salgado, Banyana player. Any song from Chris Brown could literally put me in the mood and make sure that I'm good to go. My favorite motivational quote, trust the process, but know that God is with you, you will always succeed. Between being a pilot and driving a bus, definitely a pilot to see the world and to take people along with me. South Africa, tune in to SABC Sport as we take on the Giants in the WAFCON. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me read a message before playing one or two of your voice notes. A message from Pule in Bloemfontein says, in relation to, the difference of opinion, let's call it that, or difference of policy between the ANC and the Umkhonto weSizwe party as led by former President Jacob Zuma on the issue of Western Sahara and Morocco. Pule says, Fikile Mbalula called Jacob Zuma a sellout, the very same Mbalula who called a swimming pool a fire pool. That's the kind of leadership we have in the ANC. That message coming through from Pule in Bloemfontein. And then let me go to your voice notes. Let me start with this one. Someone wanting to talk about smart meters. I imagine it has to do with that protest and that fee that has been charged by the city of Ekurhuleni.
Good morning, SAFM. Can you please talk about this new smart meters for Mfuleni local municipality under BXC? These smart meters are really expensive. They are killing us. Can you please talk about it and maybe find more information about this BXC company? Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. That's out of Mfuleni, a municipality with a plethora of issues that we cover from time to time. But the cost of electricity, I think generally and across the board, it really has shot up. We've all been feeling the impact of the tariff hike that came through from Eskom, and of course with municipal customers sort of staggered in terms of their experience of it starting at the beginning of July.
Hi, good morning to us. Elton here from PA. I'd like to comment on Jacob Zuma. I don't know that old man why he can't give up. He's as stubborn as a mule, and I think it's time for him to let go and stop listening to these advisors, Dalum Pufu and his daughter. It's time for him to let go and enjoy his pension. Tinkantla has a lot of space and he's got a lot of grandchildren. Can deal with them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I don't think he has any intentions of calling it quits and going to enjoy his retirement, former President Jacob Zuma. I think he still has a lot of energy for politics, it would seem, and therefore he plans to continue in that space of political leadership.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. In response to the conversation you had with the caller, Umukwena there in Rustenburg, I just feel like you mustn't get the two things confused. The president's home was burglarized. Usenzo Mkunu is being implicated of very, very serious alleged implications, right? So you mustn't get the two things confused. The president shouldn't have taken a leave of absence because the president in that case was a victim. He wasn't a perpetrator of any sort. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Yo, Daniel, I think I hear you, but I think you're going to get a lot of people talking. That he was not only a victim of a crime, the burglary. Yes, he was in terms of that. But the allegation against him, if you remember, Daniel, was very specific. It had to do with the foreign currency that was kept at that farm in Parapara. And that the questions were, was it declared? How did it come into the country? It was a significant amount. And therefore, there were questions about whether or not it violated, our foreign currency rules. But over and above that, when he then said that he has a farming operation, it then brought questions of, but hang on, as president, are you supposed to have any business interests or interests through which you earn another income in terms of the executive members' Ethics Act, if I'm not mistaken, and other prescripts, of course, that regulate the conduct of members of the executive. I think in that case, the argument from many people was that he was both a victim but also suspected of having done something wrong. And I think it's in that context that Mukwena was asking the question about whether or not he should have recused himself. Let me quickly take this one on Shebeens. We've been talking a bit about Shebeens in light of the conversation with Lakintimane earlier on, who made the call that Shebeens should be closed because, they are more vulnerable to incidents such as the one we saw in Olivenhout-Bosch, where there was a mass shooting.
Good morning, good morning. About these taverns and these Shebeens guys or wherever they're selling alcohol, I think about 12 o'clock at night, in the middle of the night, they must be closed by then. They mustn't allow them to operate until 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, because I think that's where the problem is. They know that people at that time, 2, 3 in the morning, they are all drunk, I'm sorry to use that word. They don't even know who they are. So that's why they are going there to attack them. I think about 12 o'clock at night, they must close these places because now they are becoming dangerous. If somebody want to drink or they like alcohol, they must just buy alcohol from the bottle store and stay in your house and drink your alcohol. At least you're safer.
Yeah. I don't know what to say to that. My understanding is that there are rules about, the operations, hours of operation, but I honestly don't know exactly what time the cutoff is in various parts of the country, in various municipalities. But I get the point that you are making, that those should be enforced more stringently, such that there is a particular cutoff and a closing time.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's go to the story now. The Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson, has made public the report looking into the collapse of the building in George, which happened last year. The 5-story structure, known as 75 Victoria, collapsed during construction, killing 34 people and injuring 28 others. The minister's briefing highlighted key findings from the Engineering Council of South Africa and the Council for the Built Environment investigations and outlined steps toward criminal accountability and regulatory reforms. Let's speak to Dr. Msizi Mieza, who is CEO of the Council for the Built Environment. Good morning to you, Doc, and thank you for your time. Let's start with the overall, how would you sum up what the findings were? Because it seems to me the first report that was tabled by the Minister of Human Settlements was the National Home Builders Regulatory Council outcome. This one is more of a professional one, looking into the conduct of professionals. How do you sum up what you found?
Good morning, Thulas, and good morning to your listeners. We titled our report "An Anatomy of a Failed System." It was a deliberate choice of the title because in South Africa, the use of cement as well as reinforced concrete buildings have been used since as early as 1900s. Mm-hmm. And therefore, we should not be in 2025 talking about buildings that have collapsed.
Mm.
So in the report that we tabled on Saturday, it basically highlighted a number of gaps in our regulatory processes, including the conduct of professionals who were assigned to perform oversight responsibilities on that construction site, which has led to the disaster.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the role, for instance, of the engineers that were involved in the project. Scathing comments being made about the role of the engineers, as well as the warning signs that were there that were simply not heeded.
Look, I think the building or the construction projects in South Africa are very regulated. There are 3 steps or gaps that we call gates in the construction cycle. The first one really relates to the pre-approval designs, and I think that's when the owner has a responsibility of appointing a competent person. In this case, would be a structural engineer. The importance of an engineer in a construction project of this nature is that he or she becomes a central person who is responsible for the entire construction project. The second part is really about the oversight responsibility, because once you get all the permits from NHDRC, from a municipality, you can then start the construction project. But during that process, it is important that the professional team, be it an architect who has designed the building, or be it a structural engineer, must ensure that during different phases, they oversee whether the slab is correct, whether the concrete is mixed correctly, whether the pillars or beams are structured, are put in the right places. And I think that's an important part of professionals in the construction part.
Mm.
The last part, which we did not reach in this project, is the handover occupation certificate, which will be issued that the building actually meets the standard. Because in a simpler terms, to us, any structure that you occupy must meet 3 preconditions.
Mm.
One, it must be designed properly. It must be fit for purpose in terms of the material that you use it, in this case of cement. And thirdly, it must be grounded on principles of construction methods that are adhered to globally. So there was nothing special about that building, to be honest.
Mm. Except, of course, many of those prescripts were not adhered to. In the course of doing your work, you then identify certain regulatory lapses and perhaps, outdated practices in the regulatory space. Talk to me about those and what remedies you are recommending.
Briefly, we have put forward 14 recommendations to the minister to look at the regulatory frameworks that must be implemented with immediate effect, as well as mandatory standards. I'll cite one, for example. In the built environment, all the professionals, or the majority of the professionals, for them to get their professional certificate or license to practice, we undergo what we call a self-assessment. And I think that self-assessment is what enables municipalities or local authorities to give permission for that registered person to be the one overseeing the project. And I think that's a gap, because I'll use an example. In the medical field, you become a GP, and then after you become a GP, you want to specialize. You also get tested. Currently, the built environment in this country, that doesn't happen. So once you get your PR registration status, it is assumed that you are competent.
Mm.
And therefore, that's one of the issues that we're putting forward, that for people who are specializing in structures, they must be competently assessed. It must be mandatory, so that at least they can take full responsibility.
Mm.
The second issue is the fact that one of the health and safety officer who was assigned the project, they identified a number of lapses. Instead of reporting, they abandoned the site.
Mm.
And I think if there were platforms where they can report through a hotline or a structure where they can report these deficiencies that they were picking up, I'm sure would have been able to pick up some of these issues, and maybe the construction would have been stopped. But I think those are some of the issues that we're putting forward.
All right.
As part of the program. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. That's Dr. Msizi Mieza, CEO of the Council for the Built Environment.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been a heavy backlog this morning out of Pretoria, heading south along the N1. It's a crash that happened much earlier today, just after the Montana exit, after the on-ramp from Sefako Makato down to Stormful. And the traffic's still very heavy. And there's probably a bit of sort of late weekend traffic coming back down the N1 from Polokwane. So just south of Pumalani Plaza, it gets really heavy all the way down to the crash just before Stormful Road. The Mike 1 is under pressure from Woodmead down to Greyston Drive, northbound from Boysons up to Parktown. The second of this morning's crash is still being attended to on that Mike 1 North just before Oxford Road exit, and that's very slow on that run up through Braamfontein and Parktown area this morning. Durban, the N2 North, just starting to queue again into Gateway. The M13, top of Fields Hill, on your way sort of through Kloof to Maytime is very slow. That could be a sort of early start to today's roadworks. There have been some roadworks on that section of the M13, and it is slow. Cape Town, no traffic lights. Marine Drive at Sunset Beach, coming out of Tableview, it's heavy. The N1 inbound, very slow from Kraaifontein through Brackenfell, and then just a wall of traffic still to clear through. It's been a busy Monday on the M1. You'll hit it again from N1 City right through the city centre. And a crash on the M3 inbound after UCT, holding traffic from Newlands. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
My name is Fikile Makama. I'm from Cape Town and I'm a defender. Between city life and village life, I will choose village life. I like being around people. I would like to say to my friends back home, they know where I come from. They've seen my struggles. So me being here is me representing them and my family. We are the champions. Where Africa competes, South Africa connect.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take a call from John in Midrand. Good morning to you, John. You want to talk to me about Senzo Mchunu?
Morning, Makocha.
Good morning.
I trust that you were.
I'm very well. Please go ahead.
I just want to check with you. I've seen a newspaper article from the City Press on the weekend that says that dockets to arrest Mr. Mchunu and Mr. Sbia were handed over to the NPA, and the NPA refused to prosecute, stating that the evidence that was gathered in those dockets was not enough for a successful prosecution of the two individuals in question. I'm left with a question, Makocha, that you can educate me in terms of the law. I know you are a scholar of law.
Sure.
Somebody, SAPS investigates, they collect evidence, and somebody, I believe, has to sign off to say, yes, you can prosecute or not. And isn't that what we have a problem of, what Nkonazi was referring to? That the prosecutors, or people that need to prosecute, have got power to say we can prosecute, can't prosecute. Is it there? I mean, these dockets, some of them have had successful prosecution of the people that have been implicated. How come we now so selective is the ones that must sense of code and have got not sufficient evidence to prosecute. I mean, this is where the nub of the issue is. I mean, if you think of the Omotoso case, the prosecutor fumbled the case on deliberately, I would say. So this is what we are facing with when Konazi says the judiciary is also the whole matter.
So, John, thank you for that. I think it's a sifting mechanism that says, while there may be evidence that points to the commission of a crime. Is it sufficient do you have enough as a prosecutor to prove that this crime was committed by this accused person beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's the standard. And I think that's a decision that prosecutors and directors of public prosecution make on a daily basis. Of course, it's a decision that you can challenge, if you believe that it wasn't taken on proper grounds, and you can make those representations to say, honestly, given the evidence that was there, this was not taken on proper grounds. But I think it's a daily decision that they make with enough fail-safe mechanisms. But I hear the point you are making, that in a context where it is alleged that some of the people that are allegedly involved with criminal syndicates include prosecutors, then that does raise other questions. It then takes you back to the question of whether or not the Commission of Inquiry, Judicial Commission of Inquiry, was perhaps not a better way to proceed. I don't know if I answered the question the way that you would have wanted me to answer it, but I do believe that a prosecutorial decision, on average, it's based on the prosecutor looking at what the investigator presents and deciding, given the elements of each and every crime, because every crime has got elements that the prosecutor must prove in court, will I be able to prove each and every one of these elements? Sure, on the surface, I might believe that this person is probably guilty of something, but will I be able to prove each and every element? And therefore, you base the decision on that and not clog up the criminal role with a case where even you can see that I will probably not be able to sustain a prosecution. I've got to leave it there for today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your engagement. The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana is up next after the news with Dineo Mutaung. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
Thank you. Tula's top stories. FlySFA cancels 12% of flights as pilot strike begins, and closing arguments due in Malema firearm case. A very good morning. FlySFA Chief Marketing Officer Kirby Gordon says 12% of their flights have been cancelled following the pilots' wage strike, which started this morning. The standoff with trade union Solidarity, which represents the pilots, threatens to disrupt flights for up to 2 weeks, jeopardizing passenger confidence and putting pressure on the airline's management to return to the negotiating table. Gordon has rejected claims that 90% of their pilots are part of the protest.
The vast majority of flights are still going to be operated on time as per schedule, but there are about 12%. All details of those flights are available in the travel updates page on our website at flightsafa.co.za. Unfortunately, the union has been misrepresenting the numbers, obviously, to try and pursue a sensationalist view. So where Solidarity reports that 9 out of 10 pilots are striking, that's actually inaccurate. The reality is that only 2/3 of the pilot base are actually represented by the unions.
Meanwhile, Solidarity's Deputy General Secretary, Helgard Cronje, maintains that their strike action is effective.
Throughout last week and over the weekend, they indicated that there will be minimal impact. And then last night at about 10 o'clock, we saw on their website and on some of their social media platforms that they've indicated that a lot of flights are being cancelled. I quickly counted more than 20 flights that are being cancelled. So I think it's a very good indication that they aren't able to sustain their flight schedule. And to me, it seems as though they delayed it as late as possible to communicate that to the South African public.
In other news, police are probing a double murder after a man and a woman were gunned down in Lentegeur in Mitchell's Plain on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson Joseph Swartboy says another man was wounded in the shooting and was taken to hospital. Swartboy says the suspects fled the scene.
Upon arrival in Lobelia Street, they found the bodies of a male and a female who sustained multiple gunshot wounds. The victims were declared deceased on the scene by the medical personnel. Another male who also sustained injuries was transported to a nearby hospital for medical treatment. The motive for this attack forms part of the police investigation.
In KZN, the R66 road near the Dokotweni Bridge in Kinkindlovu has been reopened following a collision last night that led to a closure. 5 family members have been killed and 7 others seriously injured. Amongst the deceased is a 3-year-old and a 2-month-old baby. KZN Transport and Human Settlement spokesperson Ndabizin Sibia.
The road has been reopened, but we are still, busy with all the rescue operations, especially the recovery operations, because it's a very busy stretch of road with many people, going back to, their workplaces. As you know that we had, the winter holidays over the past couple of weeks.
We move to the Eastern Cape now, where the East London Regional Court is expected to hear closing arguments in the firearm discharge case against EFF leader Julius Malema and his bodyguard Adrian Snyman. Malema is accused of discharging a firearm during the party's 5th anniversary celebrations held at Sisa Dugashe Stadium in Mdantsane in 2018. He has told the court that the firearm used was a toy. The duo are facing charges of unlawful possession of firearm and ammunition and discharging a firearm in a public area. Lastly, the Department of Health says it is embarking on a massive campaign to encourage members of the public to donate body organs and tissues in a bid to save lives. The department says there's a reluctancy to donate organs due to cultural and religious stereotypes. Department spokesperson for Stamahale